Been on grind since auto. 10,000 hours the motto. They see the bag is coming out, they flocking to me like I won the lotto. Dancing with the devil, there's no recital. I'm killing competition, ain't no revival. I shoot it to kill it, I'm aiming for vitals. I'm showing no mercy when facing my rivals. Snakes in the grass, they getting exposed. I know they be lurking, I'm watching them close. Acting like friends, but really they foes. Saw they be scheming and said adios. Yeah, I gotta get it. By any means. I gotta get it. I gotta get it, the mindset. Hey, back with a vengeance, back on the grinds, back to the business. Hey, God is my witness, they watching my moves like shows they binging. Hey, best keep distance, all of my haters send best of wishes. I get to the bag with the quickness, no I don't need no assistance, no. Yeah, no playing it safe, I said let's get it, you say not today. What can I say, you ain't gon' go for it, get out the way. Yeah, got no time to waste, can't be with me if you're not at my pace. You're not at my level, you're not in my race. One foot on the gas, I'm pushing the brakes. Dancing with the devil, there's no recital. I'm killing competition, ain't no revival. I shoot it to kill it, I'm aiming for vitals. I'm showing no mercy when facing my rivals. Snakes in the grass, they getting exposed. I know they be lurking, I'm watching them close. Acting like friends, but really they foes. Saw they be scheming and said adios. Yeah, I gotta get it. By any means. I gotta get it, the mindset. I gotta get it, the mindset. I gotta get it, the mindset.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to BMW Sim Ignition. It feels like it's been a hot minute since we last had this chance to chat with you, but we're back, and we couldn't be happier about it. Round 8 of the BMW Sim GT Cup is coming up shortly. But as always, on this show, right here on BMW Sim Ignition, we take you behind the scenes of everything BMW Esports, whether it's on track, in sim, or in the virtual world of League of Legends, for example. But today we've got something very cool because we get to chat with the rebirth of the team, the BMW Junior team, a famous team back in the 80s of BMW touring car drivers that has been recreated. And we've got 2 out of 3 of their drivers, both Max Hesse and Neil Vargren, joining us to give us the insights of what they've been up to as a team and how sim benefits what they do in the real car. It's going to be very cool to chat with them. But before we even do that, we had a heck of a race in round 7. It was not what you would have expected. We'll get to that because we got to look at the highlights at Hockenheim. Man, oh man, it was chaotic. The leaderboard got shaken, and we're going to take a look at that right now.
As the BMW SIM GT Cup winds to a close, it headed to the Hockenheim ring. It was COVID domination in qualifying, 3 of the 4 cars starting at the front. And while it was clean at the start of the race for those at the front, it was chaos in the mid-pack. Alessandro Bico tagged around as the red line orange and Arnage number 5 machines came together. It will continue to be difficult for those 2 cars getting now involved with the Apex Racing Team number 97 very next time through turn number 1. The likes of Urano also found the opening stages very, very difficult. 2 cars that were on the climb with a Williams Esports Chill Blast number 150, driven by Daniel Pastor and Louis Snatcher, and the Monaco Esports team that were looking on the charge, trying to build points on the road to BMW Sim Live. Of course, in these 2-hour races, fuel saving was required, and some drivers able to use that to their advantage to stretch out the window. But for the one mandatory stop, as always, saw a mix of tyre strategies. For Kevin Ellis Jr., after struggling in qualifying, it was a good stint for him at the start of the race. After a call on strategy from outside of the top 10, the 98 car would be fighting for a podium spot. At the front of the field, the 2 Cobra cars went slightly offset on strategy. 1 car dominating at the front, the other sliding backwards into the heart of the pack. It was a tough fight for some of our drivers to stay out of trouble, many falling foul of the disqualification limit that we saw. The 770 was the Cobra machine that was sliding backwards though, losing out first to Urano, then to a couple of the Apex Racing Team cars, but then disaster struck as Team Redline Purple tried to work their way past. The 770 made contact with the Purple machine. For the 3rd week in a row, it's Cobra that went around. While one struggled though, another soared to the top as Antiohola took victory in the BMW SIM GT Cup, taking him and his teammate Tuma Statzler 1 step closer to BMW Sim Live.
When was the last time you saw a red line have such a rumble in, or a romp, I guess, or a result of such fashion? Man, oh man, not their day. Likewise, BS Competition not scoring, as we'll take a look at the championship standings now. Despite Redline's problems, they still sit fairly well. The only people to score were Diogo Pinto and Luke Bennett getting 4 points. Max Benica, Patrick Holzman, no points. Chris Sloan and Johnny Vecchio, they still lead the championship, but no points on the day. Likewise, for BS Competition, Phil Danes and Rainer Talvor, and that is, that's a shocking that 3 of the top cars not able to score. Big points were therefore up to grabs for the second Kova car, who came through with the win. 2 in the top 4 as Mehdi Sipola and Valtteri Alander still managed to get in there with the 12-point total for that 4th position. And then it was Alejandro Sanchez and Kevin Ellis Jr. that took over the 3rd spot. So they jumped quite a bit forward in their respective placements. Remember, it's the drivers that are individually scored and qualified for BMW Sim Live, not the cars. And that's why you see each of them individually listed on the graphic. We'll explain that a little bit later on because we're going to touch on what's coming up for BMW Sim Live. It's not in the near, or rather too distant future at this point in time. But first and foremost, let's jump into it. We said we were going to chat with the BMW Sim Junior team. I've got them here now. We said we got the BMW Junior team on board today. We've got 2 out of 3, not too bad. Obviously, Dan is a little bit busy right now, apparently testing the new M4 GT4. Can't really blame him for putting that ahead of us. I would probably do that too. But Neil and Max, you guys had nothing better to do. So here we are. First and foremost, great to have you. And yeah, what a season so far for you guys. Obviously, this program getting reinvigorated, the junior program, and already seen some action at Spa, Nürburgring. Last year, the Sebring race, which was a shakedown for the new M4 GT3. How do you guys feel about being involved in the team? Neil, I know that's a big responsibility.
Yeah, no, thank you for having us here. As you said, yeah, we've had some good success in the past couple of months and back to last year as well too. So yeah, it's great to be part of this program, the revival of the BMW Junior team with Mr. Nerpash and Sven Blush and Dirk Otto. They've put a lot of work and a lot of hard effort into this program to make it work, and I got to give it to them. They have put together, I think, one of the best junior teams out there. So can't thank those guys enough for the opportunity that they've given us. And to be fair, I think the three of us have really taken it with everything that we got and threw everything at it as well too. We put everything into it, and it's been paying off. I think we can see now, especially at Spa and even at the Nürburgring races, that we've been able to run up front. We've been able to compete with the top guys and show that it's not just a program put together just to have one. It's a serious thing, and we've been doing our part to keep up on that.
Yeah, and incredibly, the last time that there was a junior team, I remember watching the BMW Adrenaline documentary. It was way back in sort of the 80s, and computers weren't even a thing, Max. And now you guys are involved, and obviously an honor for you as well. But you're kind of in an unprecedented time, even as a junior team, because some of the senior team members aren't familiar with sim, and now it really is an obligation. And how does that kind of fit in with you and the junior team?
Yeah, and also from my side, thanks for having us. Obviously we have the combination, right, with real racing and sim racing now, especially GT World Challenge, but also in the HQ at BMW, where we have our own simulator, preparing now with the GT3 stuff we had. The other guys, they're going to do some LMDH stuff running there. That obviously is a bit more professional than your normal home sim, let's say. But for us as well, I like to play on the sim. It's good fun, use it as getting experience on new tracks. And as I mentioned already, we have the GT World Challenge Esports events as well on site, where we've been doing all right, I would say, so far. And looking forward to the next 2 rounds there as well.
In terms of SRO, they're kind of the first to merge these two, though. How much, I guess, does BMW expect you to be involved in sim now as part of, the driving program? Obviously, they have the BMW sim teams. They've got BMW sim drivers specifically, but now even, Bruno Spengler, Philipp Eng was at BMW Sim Live last year as well. These guys are expected to be more involved. How much is it directly related to the junior team?
Yeah, quite a bit. We've done obviously loads of things during the whole lockdown COVID thing, but also now still, because it is a good opportunity, also during the winter times to still keep promoting BMW, the junior team. And we don't have too many cars currently at the SAO events, so we're the only one running. So it's been also very important, obviously, to run up front. And so there is definitely high focus on it.
Yeah, and you mentioned the GT World Challenge. Obviously, Neil, you had victory at Imola. You were coached by Niels Nyack, who's very well known in the sim world. Certainly, we've had him on this show already on BMW Sim Ignition. What was it like being involved in kind of both aspects at the same time?
Yeah, no, it was very interesting. It was the first time that I did a real race event where I had sim duties on top of that. So, it was a bit of a transition. You need to race on the real track. You need to be competitive there, and then you need to be able to switch your mind. You need to go into the sim. And it's not so much that it's a big transition, but there's little things that you need to do. There's little tricks here and there, and to memorize and to know all of these made it a lot easier having Nils there, because Nils was able to coach me through all these things. And as I was spending more time with him and getting more familiar with all these things, he really opened up a lot to the sim world for me. And we had a very good showing. We had a very, very dominant race in Imola, actually. So I was very happy about that. And, I think actually in terms of the track as well, too, I had never been to Imola before. So I was doing all these sim things. I was learning some things on the sim. And then when I went on the real track, I could experiment some things. Maybe some things didn't work 100%, but other things did work, and then you kind of get, a little bit extra practice in before. And I think that's where the sim becomes of such high value, because it's so difficult to get on the track nowadays. And with the simulator, you can explore a lot of things. You have no risk of anything. You can really go out and find your way. And I think if you do it properly and you have a guy like Nils that's looking over everything, making sure that you're, driving on the right stuff and all the settings are correct, it really does make a difference. So I actually thought it was very beneficial, and I enjoyed it a lot.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's super cool. Obviously, Max, you've contested as well. And we'll come back to a point you made in a second, Neil, about real life track versus sim track learning aspect, because that was a question I had. You kind of jumped ahead on me there. But first, I want to know, Max, you contested the race in Spa. You finished 4th. What was it like from an atmosphere perspective? Obviously, you're in sort of an arena. in a car, in a real car, it's loud. You've got your helmet on, you've got the radio. Sure, there's a crowd. You're aware that they're there. But in the arena with the esports event, what was the differences like for you?
Yeah, it was cool. Well, I was really enjoying it. As you mentioned, was the first time for me, so also a complete new experience, let's say. Because usually when we did sim racing, I was somewhere in my room by myself and it was dark. So also that was something very new. It's been cool, I have to say. There's been quite a bit of spectators as well around the arena, which was nice. And yeah, obviously you can hear the crowd once there's something going on. So as long as you're in the mix up front there and you know why they're cheering, then it's always good.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, as long as not cheering for the wrong reasons, right? You're not pointing the wrong way and everyone's going, oh. What's it like with Niels? Obviously, Niels lives on site in Spa. I know you just touched on this, Neil, about, you know, working with him, but what was it like sort of speaking with him directly as opposed to sort of Discord? Was there any benefits to that, did you feel?
Yeah, I mean, in general, it is very, very good that we have him on board because for us, we don't have the time to be spending all day on the simulator trying to figure out strategy, setups, all these type of things, where he's just jumping in and helping us out a lot. He exactly knows what he's doing. He's one of the best out there. So it's a massive help. And then obviously that we had him there was very beneficial. Also, you know, setting up the rigs, there's some tricks you can do with pedals, wheelbase, all these type of things. And the practice is always limited to 2 hours. So you go in, they get you a buzzer on the green light, you have 2 hours and that's it. And when you have somebody who knows what he's doing, obviously it's also very beneficial because you're not searching half an hour for one thing to change because he just goes in, did it, and it's all done. Yeah. So yeah, it's mega that we have him.
It's like an engineer. You know, you come off the track and I say, yeah, it oversteers or it understeers, but good luck telling me where to find all the roll bar attachments that I've got to dig under the car for, right? Exactly. You guys are probably better mechanically than I am. I'm not. I am famous for just coming in and saying to someone else to fix it. So, but yeah, no, totally. I can see that. You touched on it a little bit, Neil, learning tracks or familiarizing yourself with tracks that you've not been to. I always use the example of Jacques Villeneuve in 1996. It was kind of before sim, so to speak, but there was games that were eventually evolved into what we have as sims now. And when he joined F1, he had not really raced in Europe. So he actually went out and bought a computer just to familiarize himself with the layouts of tracks. And I think it's kind of interesting that you're still doing that now. How much at Imola in terms of curbs or runoff areas or lines did you actually benefit from in that situation? I know you said you could experiment with things, but do you think you maybe would have got there anyway?
Yeah, I think, you know, at the end of the day, how accurate these sims are now with the laser scan tracks and how all the models of the cars are being communicated with the manufacturers. And, you know, you really get a good feeling. Maybe it's not 100% one-to-one yet. It's still, you know, it's still a simulation. It's still not the real thing. Things change on tracks, but normally from what I've felt so far when I've gone to the tracks that I've done the sims on, that normally all the curves are the same. You can learn where the limits are of where you can, let's say, turn in, how far you can explore the track limits. Normally, it's always very similar. So
I was going to say track limits is like, because the games are pretty cutthroat. They've got the sensors. Sometimes in real life, we take leniencies. I'm sure you guys more than me even because, you know, you don't pay for your car. I do.
For sure. Yeah, no, but honestly, with the GT World Challenge, how strict they are on the track limits, you know, it's good to practice on a game like Assetto Corsa, which is extremely strict on track limits. You know, as soon as you drop the inside wheels over the white line, it immediately gives you the cuts and that takes your lap away. And, you know, as you said, in real life, it's always judge a factor. And normally they're very, very good at it, but the game is 100%. As soon as you go over and, you know, it just gets you in this rhythm of just driving the way you need to as well, too. And, as I said, you know, for me, I've never been to Imola before. So even just things like pit entry and pit exit, you know, you can practice these things. The pit entry and exit is not going to change. So you can come in and barrel it into the pits and find where the latest mark is. And, you know, just things like this that, you know, you can't really experiment so many times because in the World Challenge, we only have 2 free practices before we go into qualifying. And then after qualifying, we go to the race. And in these 2 free practices, we need to fit 3 drivers in. So you normally only get probably about like 15 laps, 20 laps around like Imola, let's say, before you go into qualifying. And you enter the pits maximum 2 times on this. Or if there's a red flag, you're not going to be coming into the pits hot anyway. So, you know, on the sim, you can practice pit entries and practice pit exits, and you can really get familiar with all these things. And and get yourself into a mode, where you can't really explore these things in free practice just because you're so time limited.
That's
So I
pretty
think that's
interesting.
where, yeah, it's definitely something that comes into play, and then as well too, I mean, just even having AI, you can learn as well too on a track where is somewhere you can overtake and where somewhere you cannot overtake. Maybe the AI is not 100% as good as a real life driver would be, but if there's going to be two cars that can fit through there or not. So then not to even attempt to try it on the real track. So you can learn a lot of things that will save your race weekend from getting you penalties or from getting damage on the car just by spending a couple hours a day before the race and just experimenting.
Yeah, I never thought about pit entry and whatnot. The technical aspects, I was thinking more layout and such, but that's a good point, actually, especially like you're saying in endurance and team racing where you're swapping the seat and swapping drivers. Yeah, definitely. Seat time's everything. Max, I've thought about this a little bit. Maybe I'll come back to Neil with the same question after. I think maybe even part of the reason BMW Junior is back is because we're seeing younger and younger grid ages across the board. Formula One obviously comes to mind. You've got the youngest grid last year, especially. I think obviously they've all aged and there's less rookies this year, but the youngest grid average age we've seen in ever. We're seeing, Max was in as a teenager, Lando's in at 19. There's all kinds of that happening now. And I've always thought, and we see it everywhere. I mean, the NHL is more young talent now. I'm Canadian, so hockey comes to mind. I don't know football that well, but lots of sports. And I think it's an internet phenomenon where, now I can go on YouTube and see things and I can learn things on my own in a quicker way, in a more engaging way. And I think in sim, when I raced karts I'll date myself, I'm 33 years old. When I raced karts in the 90s, I'd make a mistake and then I wouldn't see a track again for 3 weeks. And there was nothing I could really do other than dwell on it. Now I think sim potentially is a tool. Like, do you agree that it's maybe not a replacement for karting, or can it be a replacement, Max? Like, is it something that is essential for younger drivers growing up now?
I would definitely say it's a very good tool for sure. I don't think you can replace karting in my opinion, because it's really where you learn all the basics, where kind of already with the fighting spirit with the other guys around you, very high level, very competitive. But I would definitely say it's a great tool and you should definitely do it once basically you come towards a stage of your 10, 11, 12. And I also would agree on that, it's not just playing it, because we all know it makes tons of fun, but also to take it very serious. And I think that's where you can learn a lot. And as Neil already mentioned, with all these tiny things you can practice on, the more you do it, the more often you do it, the better it is. And if you start young, you come in prepared. And, I remember myself, I was always on the edge with jumping to the touring car because of my age, because I had birthday in the middle of the year. So it was like, oh, I might race this year still or not. Is there a seat open or not? And in the end, I was on the simulator the whole month leading up to it. And then once I got 16, there was an open spot and I kind of was prepared, let's say. So it really helped a lot. And I think everybody out there should use it as a tool, because track time is hard to get and you can really use it the best and take all out of it, even play around with roll bars and stuff, try to understand what does the car do, what behavior could you imagine, and there's a lot of good things around it.
Yeah, very, very cool. Max, Neil, rather, do you kind of agree with that? I guess maybe it's a bit far-fetched to say it's a replacement for karting, but it's an alternative maybe, because we're seeing people using it now to get toward the real world.
Yeah, I think, we've seen a couple of drivers now that haven't done this initial part of karting or young racing, and they've gone from the simulator and they've gone up to do really good things. I think, if I'm not wrong, William Byron, he was in the NASCAR and he never touched one of the young cars, and he went all the way through the ranks, and he's now one of the better NASCAR drivers. Lauren Heinrich, even James Baldwin, who Max was driving against in Spa last week in the sim race. I think all these guys, they're good cases to show that it can be done without it. I'm not saying that it's going to work the same for everybody. I think these guys are very dedicated and they've spent a lot of time to make sure that they've mastered the craft. I'm not sure while they were doing sim racing if they had any other racing activities that they were doing, maybe some of them did, maybe some of them were purely sim racing. And even I think there's a couple in the F1 leader ranks too, Kem Bolobaski and Igor Fraga as well too. And I think you can look at these guys and you can see, they still have some things to learn. I think, everyone is not possible, at the level of karting right now. If you want to compete at the top level of karting, you need to have some sort of funding, and it's not possible for everybody to have this. It's not, it's a bit unfair to say that everyone should have the equal chance, because they really don't, but I think if you can use the sim racing to gain, let's say, more experience, but if you use also a little bit of the racing to, just keep yourself fresh with how it feels, because, the sim racing doesn't have any of the forces you have in real life. You don't get this feeling of getting moved around in the car. You don't get any of, this real feeling coming from under the car, and you get this connection with you in the car. But I think the sim racing has a very good understanding of corner speeds, how, braking, getting, even overtakes. You can always battle somebody on sim racing. There's always a battle that you can do. So I think, maybe real life scenarios are a little bit different. People always race a little bit different everywhere. But I think that's very adaptable too. I think, if you just, it's very difficult. I think it's not something that I've really had to do myself, because I grew up go-karting, and I had a little bit of simulator that I was doing just here and there because I enjoyed it, but I never really was doing it to, get into it, because I had my in from go-karting. And then whenever I was doing my junior Formula ranks and everything before I got here, then I was just doing the sim to do, race prep or something like that. So, I think there's enough people now that you could say that it gives you a good enough shot to do it. Let's say if you put the time into it, if you put the time into it and you really dedicate yourself and you're like, this is what I want to do, I'm going to get here from sim racing, and you find the right people to support you to get you into and get you the opportunity, I don't think there's an issue with starting with sim racing. Obviously it's not the traditional generic way, but also ways are changing now as well too. I mean, we can see how accurate these simulators are getting. You go to a track, and even like, it's funny, I was playing on Gran Turismo the other day, and funny story, I was playing on just the normal PlayStation remote control, and I decided one day, or no, it was a challenge on the game, and it was driving the M6 GT3 around the full Nürburgring Nordschleife. And I started driving. I was like, wow, even for a PlayStation game, it is so crazy how actually the things that you would be breaking at the same point in real life are almost exactly identical to how it was in the PlayStation. Cool. It was completely shocking, actually. And, it was something that I thought was really cool. And I know I'm going completely off topic here, but
no, sure.
It's great to see, how much technology and how advanced these things are getting, because as technology and everything advances in the real world, I mean, it only makes sense that the sim racing is also getting to this level. And I know, like, for example, BMW and a lot of manufacturers are spending a lot of resource and putting a lot of effort and time into making these full-blown big simulator rigs to help develop cars, to help learn things that, you can't spend enough time on track to do. And I think this is really, I think it could be something in the future that is very, very important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I could argue it already is in a lot of ways. You did touch on something that I think is my favorite aspect of sim, and that's karting is extremely expensive now. It's inflated in price and team support and tire costs, and some people are going through multiple chassis in a year now, and it's expensive if you want to compete, especially at a continental level in Europe or a national level in the States or Canada. Even is getting pretty expensive, despite that our limited weather doesn't give us the same amount of tracks and whatnot and racing all year round. But sim racing does kind of neutralize that. And a lot of the people that I know that sim are people that, ran out of budget in real life but can still enjoy racing. And even just from the enjoyment perspective, I think that's very cool. And on an opportunity level, it's even cooler. Speaking of that, speaking of sort of no real life experience in gaming, that's kind of one of the cool things with BMW as well, because they've expanded outside of just the automotive world to include esports, and teams like T1 or G2 that have Counter-Strike teams, League of Legends teams, Dota teams, things that aren't really directly related. You guys got to train with one of those teams, Fnatic. What was that like from your perspective to work with a team that was not really familiar or not linked directly to cars, but what did you guys benefit from them?
Yeah, no, there were a cool couple of days that we did with them. They're a League of Legends team, and they are very competitive in the League of Legends field, and it was cool to show them our world and then to have them show us their world, because it's two completely different things. This is still esports, what they do, but it's such a different esports to what we do that, it was funny because they are so dedicated and they have so much knowledge about their game. I remember there was this one guy that was there. I think his name was Nemesis. I think that was his name. Yeah, Nemesis. He didn't say a single word. Maybe I won't give him a single. Maybe 5 words the entire day.
Yep.
I asked him one question about the game. I think he could have read me the dictionary about the game. He opened up. I've never heard somebody talk so much about something, and he just knew everything. There was not a single question I could have asked him that he didn't have the most intelligent answer for in the world. And I think, it just shows that, I think this can go to the sim racing as well too. Like whenever I was doing the sim prep with Nils, if I had a question, Nils immediately knew the answer to it. There was never like I'm not really too sure about this. It was always, yeah, I've tested this does this, and we should probably go in this direction because X, Y, and Z for whatever scenario it was. And it was kind of the same on his way. There's not okay, maybe it's not like that they have to tune their character or whatever, but, they know exactly which character has their strengths against whatever other character they're playing. I'm not a big League of Legends player, so I don't really know so much.
Yeah.
But,
counter picks and bans. And,
exactly. Yeah, more than I do. So, but, it was cool to see the translation between this, like, because they can spend so much time, because they can have it at their fingertips whenever they want. They can learn so much from this, and to have this then, like for Max and I, when we were working with Nils, to have this be able in our fingertips then to use and to pick Nils's brain to use these things, I think it really showed why we were so competitive then on the weekends that we did, because we had this abundance of knowledge that we could tap in any points, learn from it ourselves, and then start figuring out our ways to do it ourselves too. And then, yeah, I think we had 2 very good showings in the esports races so far, and I don't know exactly where we are. I think we're top 3, top 4 in championship.
Yeah,
in some race.
second, I think.
Nice.
Yeah.
Max is on it.
I think we're second, tied for second. Yeah.
Very cool. What about you, Max? Because obviously you were involved in that, different perspectives, psychological behind the esports side of it, but also there's a learn to drive with Fnatic aspect to this.
Yeah, no, as Neil already mentioned, I think it was very interesting. I mean, it was cool to see, and it kind of felt like there were 2 different worlds coming together, one which were kind of like always outside, they're going to the gym, they're spending their time in the race car. And then you had the other group of people which looked like they've been inside the house for 18 hours every day playing this game. But what they knew about it, it was incredible. It was really impressive. I did not understand everything. I was far away from it, but it was incredible to just see how in tune they are with the game. And they knew, I think, everything from their PC, from their keyboard, from inside the game, outside. So they were completely on it. And as Niels said, I think this is something Niels is also doing. If there's a single question, he's coming back with a dictionary, and he knows everything. So it's impressive to see.
Listen, I think that's really awesome that you guys got to experience some of the other esports stuff that BMW is involved in, obviously. I think it's very cool that you guys are seeing the values of sim racing, and BMW's utilizing you guys for your talents in both those worlds. And look, like you said, Max, second in GT World Challenge right now. Hopefully you guys can take the #1 spot in that one. And also best of luck in the real car, because it's been very cool to see the rebirth of this BMW junior team. And I can't wait to see what you guys get up to. Dan as well, obviously, who's busy in car right now. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more results from endurance races this year. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. I appreciate your words.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us. It was a pleasure to speak with you, and hopefully we'll keep our fingers crossed to keep doing these good results in the sim and the real world.
Obviously, Max and Neil, both extremely professional in their young age and wise beyond their years. That's why they're in the position they are with BMW. And as you can tell, very on it, very immersed within the sim world, and definitely very busy with obligations in the real cars this year. Can't wait to see what they get up to. So many names have gone through junior programs and been so successful, and no different back with the original BMW team. So I expect that these guys will have bright careers in front of them, and I can't wait to watch it develop. But first and foremost, we need to explain something that can help you develop in sim. There's more than just the BMW SIM GT Cup or the BMW Sim Time Attack this year. There's also a new competition. It's called the BMW Sim Trophy. We're going to introduce it to you right now.
Buckle up, sim racers. Here's something new, cool, and really exciting for you. The BMW Sim Trophy, the latest innovation from BMW Sim Racing. It's a competition, and yes, there's something up for grabs. In this video, we want to give you the basics about the BMW Sim Trophy. It's all quite simple. The most important thing is that you're racing a virtual BMW car in the 2022 season. That's the only way you can score points at all. But sit back. You don't have to take care of anything yourself. BMW Sim Racing is monitoring every eligible series and event, records your points, and publishes a ranking of all participants. Which series and events are included in the calculations can also be found in the conditions of participation on the Discord server. So you might be wondering now, what is there to win in the BMW Sim Trophy? We are giving away prizes in 3 categories: endurance, sprint, and 24-hour races. The best placed driver in each category will be awarded €2,500 in prize money. Sounds good, doesn't it? That leaves one thing for you to do. Accept the terms and conditions on the BMW Esports Discord by commenting them with the white check mark. And you're officially a participant in the 2022 BMW Sim Trophy. Easy. Let's not forget one thing. There is also a social media competition that you can all take part in. Simply post or tweet a picture of a virtual BMW racing car from the year 2022 on your Twitter or Instagram. Use the hashtag BMW Sim Moments and you're in. Oh yes, the winner, who will be determined by the community voting, will receive a Fanatec BMW M4 GT3 wheel. Banger! So, what are you waiting for? Take part in the 2022 BMW Sim Trophy and get rewarded for your passion for BMW.
So there you go, the BMW Sim Trophy. Very unique, very cool. You don't even have to sign up per se. All you actually have to do is head over to one of the BMW social medias, whether it's Twitter or Instagram. Specifically, Esports would be easier to find it. Get to the Discord, and you just have to basically agree with the terms of conditions. That's sufficient. At that point, you just basically need to be involved, and that's what BMW wants. They want to get insight from the community and how to get involved and reward the success and commitment of BMW. So race in a BMW car, get in and get points. It's the endurance, the 24 hours, the sprints. Get involved, and they'll be tallying those, and you can win some incredible prizes. 2,500 euros. 200's a little lower than that. 2,500 sounds pretty good. You can grab, and there's some additional stuff as well, because they'll be looking for pictures and videos, and the community will be able to vote on those, as well as BMW Esports. And you could win something very, very cool. All you have to do is use the hashtag BMW Sim Moments. You want to know what that prize is? It's a BMW M4 GT3 steering wheel. Yeah, the exact wheel out of the real car that is plug in and play on a Fanatec rig. It is probably the coolest steering wheel in esports, and I'm extremely jealous. I might have to submit some photos too. So get involved. You've got 6 weeks left to do so. It runs until September 30th. Get in those beautiful M cars and get your results scored, guys, because it's definitely cool that everyone anywhere can be involved in this competition. That's not all. If you haven't picked up any points yet, well, maybe there's a way to help you do that and improve your driving. We've got the BMW Sim Academy coming very, very soon. Bruno Spangler and 2 pro sim drivers will explain the basics, make it easier to get involved, and clear up a few myths about sim racing. Maybe it's worth it. I'm sure everyone could benefit from drivers like this. Here's a little teaser of what to expect.
Hi, I'm Bruno Spengler, BMW M Works driver and active sim racer. Although I have a lot of experience in the real racing world, I had to learn my way around sim racing. To make it easier for you to get started, I would like to introduce you to sim racing with a video series. In the coming episodes, we will cover the basics of sim racing, and then going onwards, we will go in more into details. But I don't want to do this alone. I have 2 experts with me with whom we're going to present you to different aspects of sim racing.
Hi Bruno, nice to meet you in person.
Nice to see you, man. So here at the BMW M Motorsport headquarters, we have our dedicated sim racing area. And this is going to be our home turf for the next episodes. Are you guys ready?
Yes, we will have 6 episodes waiting for you.
on iRacing and Assetto Corsa Competizione.
Very cool. You definitely want to keep your eye out for the BMW Sim Academy. Another great way that BMW is helping enhance your sim experience and improve your driving with contact with some of the best sim racers in the world. And Bruno Spangler, who's an absolute legend of touring car and BMW motorsport in his own right. So very, very cool. I'll probably benefit from it. So maybe I'll sign up too. Now, we did say we're getting to the end of the season. We've got round 8 today. BMW Sim Live. It's back. Absolutely. It's coming, and it's going to be held with the finals online on October 29th. That's both the BMW Sim GT Cup and the BMW Sim Time Attack. For the BMW Sim GT final, it's the top 12 in the standings after race 10. It will go head-to-head in the finale. But remember, as I said, with that championship standings graphic, it's individual. So despite that Chris Lullam and Johnny Vecchio have been sharing a car, they'll be going head-to-head at the finals, and that's why they're individually scored heading into that. The prize pool for that race alone is already over $70,000 US. Very, very, very cool. So we are definitely getting toward the bitter end of who's going to qualify and make it through to those races this year. This is the first year it's been a full championship as well. It used to be if you won a race, you qualified. Well, now you've got a whole season to contend with. And that's why today, as we head to Barber Motorsports Park in round 8, there's a lot on the line for everyone. In order to do that, we've got to send it over to our commentators. It's Arjuna and Lewis. Enjoy the BMW Sim GT Cup.
The road to BMW Sim Live heads to the Alabama roller coaster. With just 3 races left, the grid for 2022 and BMW Sim Live is just weeks away from being locked in and loaded. Live today from the virtual Barber Motorsports Park, welcome to RaceSpotTV and the BMW Esports social media channels, where alongside Lewis McLeod, my name is Arjuna Kankipati, delighted for the chaos that we are about to see. Remember to follow along with live timing and scorings powered by our friends at Timing71. Head to racebot.wtf/BMW. Lewis, this was the race that I think everybody had circled as one to watch. The chaos of Barber Motorsports Park is going to be electric, but just 3 rounds are left for drivers to put points on the board as they build to BMW Sim Live at the end of October.
Comparatively to most of the circuits on the calendar, Barber is very much the outlier. A lot tighter, a lot twistier, a lot trickier than some of the circuits that we've been to this season. It might mean that the fuel game is a little bit more of a question mark in the sense of it's more about out-and-out pace, it's more about survival. I think we're in for a very different style of race here this afternoon.
It is going to be one of those races where, with a single split of competition, survival is number one, and seeing what you get after that is just a benefit. Of course, let's talk about the format for these races, where we pay out over $40,000 across 10 regular season rounds of the BMW Sim GT Cup. Our race winners walk away with $1,200 apiece, the podium all rewarded with cash prizes, and while points are scored as teams, our championship is scored by the drivers, and that means that the fastest race lap gets 1 extra point for that fastest driver in race conditions. And the story of the year has been one of concern for many teams, Lewis, not knowing how many drivers would make it to BMW Sim Live. However, today we are delighted to be able to announce that on October 29th, 12 drivers from the BMW Sim GT Cup will go head-to-head during BMW Sim Live in our finale, and you can see how close it is and how tight it is in the challenge to be able to fight at the end of the year.
Yeah, with it being 25 points for a victory, there's still plenty of time. 75 points up for grabs when it comes to just the races, plus the 3 for the bonus points, meaning there's 78, greatest number in all of sim racing. We know it, points up for grabs over the next 3 rounds, which means that there's a lot of people that can still jump their way into those qualifying spots. Going to be very important for the likes of Luka Kita and Alexei Nesov, for example, to have a good round here. Those that are going through at the moment, we've got 2 BS competition drivers, 2 Apex drivers, 2 Cobra drivers, and 6 Redline drivers. It is very important for Cobra to get another couple into there. Same with Apex, but that's easier said than done.
And even the likes of R8G have had Mandanark, Melchers, and a couple more, Lebigra and others, quick over the course of this BMW Sim GT Cup. Will they really go to BMW Sim Live without any representatives? We'll have to wait and see. While these are the points, let's talk about the journey that these drivers have been on. We started in the month of January on the high banks of Daytona. Gianni Vecchio makes it 3 wins in a row to kick off the year at Daytona, but after that it was a trip to the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, where Phil Denez and Rainer Talvar stormed away at the front of the field. Despite a 5-second penalty, the Zebras were victorious. Just a couple of weeks later, the duo did it again. It required contact on the final lap to get past Patrick Holtzman in the Team Redline car, but the Zebras, 2-time winners. After that, to the Nürburgring, a strategy masterclass for the Kova machine. Valtteri Alander leading that team to victory. After that, though, it was finally time for Benecke and Holtzman to roar to the top. It was crazy at Watkins Glen. It was Redline Red that stamped their way to the front of the field, and then at Spa-Francorchamps in the Ardennes Mountain, they did it yet again, building those points for Benecke and Holtzman, very much needed. And last time out at the Hockenheim Ring, Kova did it again. Just 3 teams have won races in this BMW Sim GT Cup, but only a couple have managed to win multiple races. Today, it's of course the Barber Motorsports Park that takes center stage, not just because of its unique corner naming and numbering convention, but because of the elevation change, the difficulty of this track, of course. The race it's most known for, Lewis, is when American Open Wheel Racing, when the NTT IndyCar Series comes here. What a fun track it is.
So much fun. It's a roller coaster. That's what it's known as. It really is an incredible track. When you come through the first corner, then you rise back uphill, down through this extended right-hander, up and over the crest, down into the hairpin, which is so much trickier than it looks on a track map. You kind of look at the hairpin, this one just here, where you kind of think, it's not that hard. But you're coming downhill into that braking point. Your front wheels, they want to lock up constantly, obviously ABS and stuff to assist. Then you've got that tricky chicane into the right-hander. You've got some chicanes on the backstretch before you get into the high commitment final sector. It is a brilliant track. We absolutely love it.
And as always, when it's qualifying time, the pressure is on, the margins are close. A tenth of a second splits the top four. It will be Alejandro Sanchez that goes back to pole position for the first time since Daytona. If things stay as they are, Phil Denez and the BS competition number 89 jumps up into the top 5. 40 cars in the field, a single split of competition. It is one of the more interesting fields that we've had, Lewis. I think primarily because we are expecting lap traffic to be a big differentiator here. There is a big gulf in quality with almost 4 seconds splitting the first lap times from the final lap times.
Well, I mean, you said it when we jumped into the server that there are some people in the race that will be 1.5 to 2K, maybe even lower than that, where they're driving around and suddenly, out of absolutely nowhere, Max Benecke shows up with 10.8k of I rating and fires his way past you, just trying to get past. All you're trying to do is kind of get out of the way, trying to let them go. That is going to be so tricky. I would be amazed if we get through the entire race without someone tripping up over someone else. I think that is going to be a very big factor today, but they've got qualifying to deal with first. And over the 7 rounds this season, we have not seen a repeat pole sitter. You said Alejandro Sanchez is on top at the moment. He could be the first person to do the double.
A quarter of a tenth of a second between him and Daniel Pastor for the Williams Esports Chill Blast 150, looking for another good performance after some strong pace shown from the 150 at the Hockenheim Ring. 90 seconds left to go in qualifying, and with these 2-hour sprints, we always talk about track conditions and how it influences our tire strategy. One mandatory pit stop where, of course, we see a driver change take place. Sometimes it's no tires thrown onto the car, sometimes 2, sometimes 4. With 50 degrees Celsius track conditions, I think we're expecting a barn burner of a race for the drivers working through traffic. And for the tires, well, potentially, it's going to be a long stop and fresh rubber for that second driver of the race.
I'd want fresh tyres. I'd want all 4 done. On a track like this, it's abrasive. It's you've got a lot of medium speed to high speed corners where you wear the tyres out quite significantly. It really does lean on the front left a lot through a lot of the corners around here. It's tricky, and you kind of want to attack that second half of the race. And if I'm the second driver coming in, you know me, I've said it time and time again, I hate the idea of coming into the race and going on someone else's scummy old tyres. I want my own set. That's what I'd be arguing in the pit lane.
So with 20 seconds left to go in qualifying, does not appear as though we're going to get any sort of a shake-up with only 2 cars left on track and rolling, but no improvement from either Josh Ladd in the Williams Esports Razor number 3 or the number 13 Plus Testers racing car. Smorgasbord of entries and an entry list that will confuse and confuddle some. It is sure to prove to be electric as the qualifying clock comes to a close. Go fast time is over at the Alabama roller coaster. It's time to get down and dirty for round 8 of the 2022 BMW SIM GT Cup. Just 3 races are left as drivers build to the BMW Sim Live Showcase at the end of October. 12 drivers will be there, 12 looking to stamp their mark on the championship. It will be our first repeat pole winner of the year, Alejandro Sanchez, with a 1:18.970, punching his way to the front of the field and a clean ticket to fresh air. Daniel Pastor alongside for the Williams Esports Chill Blast machine, while Maximilian Benecke, Tumas Tassler, previous race winners, share row number 2. Phil Denez and Johan Harth, 5th and 6th positions with the Frenchman, looking to build from within the Apex Racing team facility. Carl Jansen, Matti Siepler, row 4. Chris Lullum and Diogo Pinto, the Red Line teammates, make up the edge of the top 10 with some work for the both of them to do. Vlad Kimichev, Moreno Surica make up row number 6. From 13th, it's Nicholas Laubish in the Urano Esports Huawei machine. Oscari Rene to his right-hand side, Alexander Thiba and Florian Labigra, 15th and 16th spots. The unmissable Williams Esports Razor machine and Josh Ladd inside of Kieran Harrison for the Sim RC number 76, with Thibaut Casbon, Jan Sammer for the Riley Sim Racing machines. Rounding out the top 20, NVW Esports and 27 Motorsports, 21st and 22nd. Before we start to get to some of the newer names in this top split of competition, Olympus Esports and Matt Loveridge, 23rd, alongside with the iconic Motorsports number 9, SAS Racing Orange, and the door openers, hoping not to leave too many doors open, row 13. From 27th, it's the Jeff Vader Tribute Band and the THLF Esports Slot Car Dreams 017, SES Racing Black and Latin Racing Sport make up the top 30. The Square Motorsports Team Grey, 3 seconds off the pace in 31st, along with Send It Racing, Top Down Motorsports, Zoomers Racing, Billy Goat Racing, Full Beans Racing, Plus Tessers, and 2 Urano cars, 38th and 39th, a giant Dine-Tune, the final car in our 40-car field. But what a shot for Luca Kita and Dylan Shrivens in the 2 Urano cars to be starting at the very tail end of the field. Alongside Dylan Shrivens will be the debutant for Urano, Jonas Wallmeyer, after switching over from Team Redline. That is not how he wanted his Urano career to start.
No, it isn't. Like I say, it's going to be a long day, especially for Alexei Nesov and Luka Kita, who is Luka Kita's teammate today, as has been for the last few rounds. They've been in the top 5 twice in the last 3 races, having that podium in the last round, the Hockenheim Ring, the first podium for Urano this season. Well, they were looking to move themselves up into the top 12, that all-important top 12. They're not a million miles away from it. The fact that they are starting down the order that far back, it is going to be a very long afternoon on a circuit which is pretty tricky to overtake at, and you're very likely to trip up over traffic in the early stages.
Turn 5, one of your primary passing opportunities. Lob it to the inside, a double apex left-hand sweeper, and then a short run into turn 7, a very difficult complex of corners. Commitment required. You can use the curbs in these BMW M4 GT3s, but you are going to have to stay out of trouble. On board with Beneke as cars, get a little too friendly with the pace car. You can enter this corner of complex with a lot more speed in race conditions. It is one of the danger spots on lap number 1. I feel like down the hill through turn 7, we're in for some drama on the opening lap.
Oh yeah, oh we certainly are. Maybe not for the first 10, I'll say. I think the first 10 can get through pretty cleanly. In the back of the pack, that's where we see the stack-ups. If I'm Urano, etc., from the back of the field, I might actually want to back off from people coming into this corner, because I want to give them enough room, as we're already going 3 wide in the formation. They're going a bit all over the place here, aren't you? No.
They're just testing what 3 wide is like, expecting maybe some of that with the traffic. There is a tension in the air, and it's not the usual sort of tension that comes with these drivers when they are fighting for, you know, the thousands of dollars of prize money. They are fighting for that today, but there is a nervousness in the air. The unknown is what's worrying the drivers right now.
And it's a big thing, the unknown. Around a circuit like this, it is the big question mark as to how are we going to survive for the next 2 hours of just the craziest racing. I don't know what to look out for, Arjuna. We've got to keep our eyes wide open.
6 hours are left on the road to BMW Sim Live. Alejandro Sanchez is our first repeat pole position winner. Can he convert to victory in Barber? We're about to find out. Racing in the BMW Sim GT Cup once more. It's a great start at the front. Single file for the top 2. Side by side behind that. They work down the hill through turn 1 and then through the crest and the dip. That is this right-hand hairpin of turn 2. Sanchez leads in front of Pastor, Tatala, Beneke and Dinez. Couple of cars with drama. A nice tidy start at the front of the field.
Yeah, like I said, the top 10 looking pretty tasty at the moment. Going to the outside, Dinez trying to get it done on Max Beneke down into the hairpin around the outside of T5. He might be hung out to dry here, and it might be Johan Harth who's going to book his ticket to try and pass coming down into T7.
Might actually be Dinez that goes on the offense. Will go to the outside, backs out of it. Beneke has got to get focused now. Already 9/10 back from the top 3 cars. They look to try and break away. Sarika to the inside of Vlad Kimichev as they come down out of turn 7 through the flip-flop S's. You can't fight side by side. They'll think about it. A lot of drivers being very cautious not to force the issue in the opening stages.
Yeah, not trying to trip over each other straight away. And like you say, decent stuff from Kimichev to be ahead of Sarika. Laubish directly behind. Ascari Rene also closing in. Of course, only recently signed for the Cova Esports team. Done a couple of races for them now, but is trying to charge.
Leading lap 1, Sanchez already 7/10 clear, trying to break away. What a performance it was for Sanchez at Daytona. If not for the mistake he made in pit entry, on the entry into the pit box, it could have been Sanchez and his teammate fighting with the red line duo at the front of the field. Still a long way to go in this race though. Managing the tyres will be paramount. Luca Kita has had a rocket of a start. He's already up into 29th position. Dylan Shrivens, 33rd, still 4 positions back from his Urano counterpart.
Yeah, and I say it's going to be a long afternoon for them, but that's okay. Whilst there's a bit of side-by-side ahead, they might be able to take advantage of this as the race goes on. RHG going side-by-side with Williams coming down to T7 and T8.
To the inside it is Josh Ladd with Kazabon, again, not committing too hard. Ladd very much sent it onto the entry of the corner, able to get it slowed down in time. Inside of the top 16. Would it shock you, Lewis, to hear there's only been one switch around in positions?
I mean, this is a circuit where normally we see quite a lot of overtaking on the first couple of laps, so to be honest, it is kind of a surprise that we haven't seen too much movement in the early stages. As the race goes on, I'm sure the opportunities will arise, a bit of a dive bomb coming down into the hairpin, or, more importantly, as much as these drivers are the very, very best, I think we're going to see a lot of mistakes today. It is a circuit which absolutely bites.
It is an old school circuit as well, in that there's no runoff for you to avail yourself of. You run wide, you're in the grass, you're on a one-way ticket into the wall. 1 second now, the gap between the top two. Sanchez punching now to swing away early. Tattler building up a deficit to Beneke and Redline as well. We expect a bit of a draft pack. It will be interesting how far back the pack truly goes. As it stands right now, there's no cars between first and 21st, split by over 1.1 second. We'll be curious to see how much fuel saving plays a toll through the course of these races.
Yeah, we're not expecting fuel mileage to be the issue that it is on some places like when we go racing at Road Atlanta, and it's a problem where on the backstretch they literally will just sit in a line coming out of turn 7 all the way down to the next corner, which is 10 apparently. Of course, American corner numbers. We're going to go off it later on, don't you worry. But this is kind of not in that vein. You can do a lot more yourself to save fuel rather than requiring the assistance of the car ahead to help you out on that, which means that you can be a bit more raceable around here. I'd suspect that it might be slightly counter to how normal races are in BMW, where we see the first 10 minutes are a bit crazy and then it quietens down. I think this might actually get crazier and crazier as we get close to the pit stops, as the top 3, 4, 5 start pulling away.
I think it's when we get into the traffic that we're going to expect to see something. You can see bottom left of the track map on the corner of your screen. Already Sanchez over the crest at turn 3 into the braking zone at turn 5. The stragglers at the back of the pack are still yet to work their way into the final corner. Give it 10 minutes, we will start to see traffic, and then from there it will be constant. It will be an inevitability.
Yes, indeed. And that's where you're going to see a good few moves, particularly in this kind of section where we've got Redline, BS Competition, Apex, Williams, where they're quite close, because one bit of lap traffic in an awkward spot, yeah, the first two might be able to get through, but then the third and fourth car in that train, they're going to get held back a little bit. That's the opportunity for a couple of them to pounce. We ride on board with the Williams Esports Ben Q car that's presently being driven by Carl Janssen. Oh, that's
Matt Loveridge in the Olympus Esports number 21. That's in the wall. Try to back up in turn 7 without coming straight onto the racing line. Nice and tidy done by a driver we've seen before on RaceSpotTV in our Ivor GT Sprint Championships. Now we'll drop to 36th on the track, not where he would have wanted to be. Shrivens puts another car in his rearview mirrors, gets past the SAS Racing Black number 5. He's up into 27th, 20 seconds down from your race leader. Still the only change inside of the top 16 positions was Tumas Tassler on the start of the race, flying by Beneke. And with the pace that Beneke has started this race with, I wonder if he's minding the tires and already thinking about what he does in our mandatory pit stop cycle.
I've always said this before, when you have drivers like Beneke, etc., this is not kind of the same in this because they're all very, very good at the front, but I've had it before where you start to pull away from a driver which arguably is one of the absolute fastest, two-time race winner in the championship so far, being Beneke. You kind of ask yourself the question of like, okay, what am I actually doing wrong? And you kind of think that's crazy. You're pulling away from someone. What do you mean, what are you doing wrong? Well, 9 times out of 10 in a race like this, strategy is the prevailing factor. If they're not going fast, it is most likely for a reason. It's very rare that it's because they just aren't that quick. Normally they can keep up in the train. Normally they can keep the slipstream at least to pull them along. So it tells me that there might be something else going on, like you say, like tyre conservation. Maybe they're aiming just to change the 2 tyres on the pit stop, which could be an enormous gain, at least when it comes to stationary time.
I'm trying to recall if there has been a meta to follow through the course of the season. For my money, every race has been slightly different, whether it's no tyres, 2 tyres, or 4 tyres. And that's why when we discussed this during the race at the Nürburgring, excuse me, Lewis. We got that word from Kova that they do full race simulations. The first driver goes out, does an hour. The second driver comes in, over the course of multiple runs, will take no tires, 2 tires, 4 tires, go out and do another hour. It's why these drivers are at this level, the commitment they have to sim racing.
Yeah, they're not the only ones that make that kind of commitment to learning the cars in and out, to learning the strategy, especially when we know how important the strategy is, as we'll see on replay what happened to the Olympus Esports team.
Overcommitted, grass on the entry down through turn 7, then got bottled up behind another car. Looks like a normal racing deal. Look on board, you see. Too much speed, around she went.
Yeah, it's a tricky one there. Obviously, was trying desperately to keep out of the car directly ahead, and then ended up tripping up over yourself, which is a bit of a shame. But those things are easily done. Those are things that kind of happen. Look at the different line, by the way, from Phil Denez. I've noticed this the last few laps. Different line coming into the penultimate corner. Phil Denez is much tighter than Max Benecke. Benecke's letting the car roll all the way out to the exit. Same as quite a lot of people. They're letting the car go all the way out to the left-hand side before pulling it to the right. It's almost as if Phil Denez is taking that like really aggressive line that you would take if you were about to send it. But I think it's just the line that Denez has been taking through there.
I do wonder if Denez has ever competed here in the real life. Of course, Denez has competed on the Road to Indy ladder before here in the United States. Got back behind the wheel of a car in Europe recently, although that was a tin top rather than an open wheel machine. We've seen Denez in this M4 GT3 be one of the fastest across of the iRacing world. A 2-time winner in this 2022 BMW SIM GT Cup. At the front of the field is 1.5. That splits Alejandro Sanchez from Daniel Pastor. The margin in qualifying, 1/4 of a second. It's up to 1.6. Sanchez is flying.
Yeah, just to give you a bit of an update, by the way, because we know we have done a couple of times when it comes to the 2 Urano cars that have been working their way up the order. Dylan Scrivens has just moved himself up into 25th position. The other one, which is Luca Keita's, actually got himself up into 23rd at the moment. I don't know if I'd necessarily rule out points. It's going to be a very, very difficult day for them. But if, particularly with Luca Keita and Alexei Nesov, if they have aspirations of getting into the top 12 and getting their invite to BMW Sim Live, then, well, to be perfectly honest, they need to be doing a little bit better. They need to be in the points this afternoon. They can't afford to come away with a goose egg.
From here, it's over to Silverstone and then Suzuka. Silverstone may be one where drivers will carry some expectations in, but based on what we saw with Suzuka in the M8 GTE at the start of 2021, it was the second round of last year's BMW Sim GT Cup. No guarantees for results can be drawn when you head to Suzuka. We saw the drama with Max Verstappen and Joshua Rogers coming together.
Yeah, down at T1, of course, we went racing there in Season 1 of 2021. A fantastic race, that one being in the BMW M8 GTE rather than the GT3s that we've got ahead of you today. It was a great race, and to be fair, I think Suzuka's one, it'll be a bit of a fuel mileage race because we know how much you can save fuel coming up to 130R in the Casio Triangle and then down towards T1, which means that for some teams that maybe aren't so good on fuel mileage, Silverstone is the key to their season. Who knows? It's going to be an exciting final 3 rounds of the season because they're on 3 very, very different circuits. And as we ride on board with Johan Hart, you can see once again that very different line from Phil Denez.
Yeah, thought we'd pick up on that one through that penultimate corner. A little bit tighter from Denez, not sweeping out as wide. Don't think there's necessarily a wrong answer there, because if it was a longer, if you were exiting a corner and, you know, running down a straight, then yes, the wider line would be your preferred option. But Denez may be recognizing that the penultimate corner is all just about building to the final corner. As far to the right-hand side as you can get is ideally where you want to position your car. The American, nice and early for him in the morning, just about 7 a.m. in Monterey, California for that number 89 car. 4 seconds down on the race leader. Left side again, the top 10 score points. The green line marks the cutoff point. It's Diogo Pinto, your 2022 World Championship winner, that sits in the cutoff seat as the top-down racing car has gone around at turn 1.
Yes, indeed. It's not the only car that's been around at that section of the track. It's pretty tricky through T1. You kind of take a lot of speed and then the track drops away from you quite a bit. I've got to say, of this train for the race lead, really, I think it's more the train for second, as we'll see on replay as to what's happened. Is it a bit of contact? Is it going to be three-way? Is that Olympus trying to come through? I think it is.
It is, and Olympus, to be fair, they're not the ones with the contact.
No.
It's just a clumsy three-wide situation.
Yep, someone's got to back out of it, and you've got to make the decision pretty early to back out of it. And going around the outside of T1 when you're three wide, unfortunately, that's never going to work. I'd always back out of those scenarios because it's just you're asking for trouble. What I was going to say, though, in the top 10 in this train for second place, 9th and 10th. That's the one that's kind of sending alarm signals in my brain, is the idea that Team Redline Blue, of course, our championship leaders in that sense, between Lulham and Vecchio, 9th place, and then you've got Diogo Pinto currently driving around, as you said, recent iRacing world champion, in 10th position. That's telling me that they're doing something strategic here. I know obviously it's a great grid, but if they needed to rise forward, we've seen Redline do it before where they've not qualified well and they've instantly been on the attack. Watkins Glen's great example of that. When you don't have to worry necessarily about tyres, they're already moving forward. I think this is where Team Redline are trying something different today.
So about 14 minutes passed in the racing. Remember, we have live race control. They will investigate anything inside of the top 10, 15 positions. And if any punishment is deemed necessary, it'll be handed down in the form of post-race time penalties. And already we've seen 2 winners walk away with the checkered flag in hand despite 5-second penalties. So by no means is a race control intervention a race-ending moment. However, it very much will complicate your life. This is the sort of race where we wondered if it was going to be crazy for race control, if they were going to be relatively unneeded. As it stands right now, they have not been harassed just yet. Redline and Beneke working on the back of Tattler. Meanwhile, to quote someone from the RaceSpotTV YouTube chat, Alejandro Sanchez has gone full beast mode. 2.5 seconds clear, 15 minutes into the race.
Yeah, he's on a different planet. If he's working those tyres, he's working them brilliantly at the moment. Like I say, 2.5 seconds clear right now from this pack. Got to say, though, one thing is that he is closing down on some lapped traffic. It's another Sanchez, but it's obviously not himself. He's not doing that. He's not travelling back in time or whatever. He's closing down on Send It Racing, who are going to be going a lap down. They'll be the first team to go a lap down. Now, I don't think Sanchez is going to have any issues getting through, but as we've said time and time again, it's this train behind in 3 or 4 laps that Send It Racing car could cause problems to this pack.
Let's ride on board Barber with the pole man, with the fastest man on the track. Barber Motorsports Park, just under 4 kilometers in length. It starts in turn 1, down the hill, a dab on the brakes, tuck to the left-hand side of the track, and set yourself up for the sweeping hairpin that builds into the most opportune passing opportunity. Down the hill, use all the track on offer as Sanchez mounts the curb and up and over the crest, nice and flat in a GT car. Hard onto the anchors, in towards Charlotte's Web, a multi-apex complex of corners. Sanchez hugs it nice and tight. Others will choose to run out wide and V it back in. But nice and tidy onto the powers. Behind him, Sanchez's teammate, Johan Huth, loses out to Carl Janssen. Down into turn 7. How much curb do you feel confident using? How compliant is the chassis and suspension setup to roll down the hill? That's crucial. As Sanchez powers up, you see the traffic in front of him about to be a reality. Through the S's, you listen to the throttle, you see the hands dancing on the wheel. It was foot to the floor. Through the S's, commitment. Down the hill and then cresting over as you try and get onto the power. The rear end steps out through the final complex of corners, sweeping out the momentum to the very left-hand side of the track. Sanchez runs the wider line through the penultimate corner. So tidy into that final corner, though. A lap around Barber, a clinical lap around Barber. Sanchez is on a mission.
Oh, damn, that makes me excited about driving Barber. I absolutely love this track. It is such a venue. You can kind of get it there. The undulation. It feels... It's not a very big track. You don't go that far. Essentially, it's almost like a cattle pen. You go down one end, you come back the other. You go back down the other end, you come back down the other, and then you loop round and meet yourself again at the start finish. You don't go very far, but it feels like every lap around here that you're on a journey, that you are going somewhere, because it's all up and down through the corners and stuff. It's so interesting, and every lap is such a difficult balancing act on a knife's edge. So much fun.
To quote someone else from my YouTube chat, this track has an incredible set of corners either side of the start-finish straight. Love it. Love it.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, Alejandro Sanchez has cleared the first bit of lapped traffic, so he's got past, and you can see sat on the horizon there just coming through. That is Send It Racing, the first bit of lap traffic they're going to have to deal with. The first potential irritation for some of these in this pack.
We'll see how they work through. It's not the best place to catch them into the final complex of corners. The lap traffic will go down low, forces second on back to sweep around the outside. That is very, very worrying signs. They'll get through safely for now. 7th on forward has gotten through. Seepola will go through as well. That was a nervy couple of moments.
Man, I've never felt more bad for someone. That was rough for Send It Racing. Like you say, just caught in the middle of it. Tried getting out of the way of everyone. Tried. I know, obviously, you say trying to be as predictable as possible, but that's the thing. This is a single split race at the moment. We've got some of the most experienced, some of the brightest stars in sim racing battling toe-to-toe with some of the newbies as well. Down the inside, Beneke makes a little bit of contact with Thomas Tattler to open the door. Little naughty, but he properly sent it in.
At least it's not a 4th round in a row where a Kova machine is around. And we'll have to wait and see in the final hour, in those final 10 minutes if that happens, because it seems to be where things fall apart for Kova. Red line ice blue, Theba and Lebigra down the hill into turn 7. Again, the outside line not paying off as red line ice blue able to hold on to the spot for the time being, as, whoa, that's not where you want to be off the track, as the Jeff Vader tribute band wide through the final corner.
Yep, that one is not ideal. Oh, my
traffic!
goodness.
Traffic has caught out Daniel Pastor. The Williams Esports Chill Blast car into the final sector is around and stranded at the very top of the crest.
Yeah, it was the Platasis, and unfortunately that is going to be a big issue. I think it's going to be a retirement. They're not going to score any points for the day. That is a big shame as BS Competition straight on the attack, getting down the inside of Thomas Tattler. Kova's going backwards here, out a little bit wide though as we come through the first corner, now through T and 3. I think Kova might just hang on. It might be Williams Esports and Carl Janssen that might try and find a way through.
Janssen doesn't have enough of an overlap. We'll see the side-by-side in front of him. Dinez all the way to the inside at turn 5. Almost contact again as Tattler tries to pinch the Zebra to the inside. Janssen tries to squeeze his way to the inside. Off the track goes the black and grey machine. Tattler pushed down to 7th. Taking advantage comes Janssen.
Oh, it's going to be brave to get it around the outside of 7. He's going to send it in. He's going to go all the way over the curb. There's nearly going to be contact between the two. It's so tight as they head through 8 and out onto the backstretch up towards the S's. Straight around the outside. Janssen's trying to rescue the podium. At the moment, Johan Arthur sat behind him thinking, please, lads, go back to single file and let's get on with this. The top 2 are running away. Now Johan Arthur is trying to find his way through.
Will they sort it out or will they continue scrapping? Finally back in line. Now 2.5 separated from Beneke, who took advantage to run away and break the draft. Great fighting to watch, but it has started to splinter these cars up. Still some fighting as Seepola and Lullum fighting through the final corner. What a dramatic lap. It started with traffic chaos. There goes Lullum.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Seepola squeezing Lullum straight into the wall. That I am not okay with. My goodness. I think you could. Is there any damage on the front? I think there is just a touch on the right-hand side. Might just be what I'm seeing here, but I think there is a little bit of damage. Also could be done from the curbs and stuff. But either way, a very, very sketchy moment, and Lullum is not happy about that one bit. Redline is starting to think they need to get on with this now.
That was a nervy moment, and we said Beneke took advantage of that. Really taking advantage is Alejandro Sanchez. Now 5 seconds clear at the front of the field. Lebigra gets it done through turn 5. Almost though, door banging and further contact. Theba's not happy. Ladd fires it down the inside and the Williams Esports Razor machine. Theba almost loses out another spot as Kieran Harrison comes through. What went on these last 5 minutes? It picked up at Barber.
We said this race is going to get crazier and crazier. It's exactly what we're seeing as the race is starting to split apart. It's not like a standard race that we've seen before in the BMW SIM GT Cup. Let's take a look on replays of what happened.
I'm sorry, I know this is a top split, and I know that the 13 may not have realized what he was signing up for, but that is shocking. unfortunately.
And like I say, Williams Esports just... they're trying to get out of the way and then completely make a mistake. I get it, heart racing and stuff. Yeah, that is very, very unfortunate for the 150. Big time.
Not much he could do either. It's the reality of the situation. Car cannonballing back onto track. It is poor Daniel Pastor that becomes retiree number 1. From second spot, the Williams Esports 150 scores no points on the day. Still looking then at potentially a fight from third on back. Dinez back into a podium spot. Janssen, Hoth, Tatula, Sipala, Lullum, Pinto, Kimichev make up the rest of the top 10. You got a feel for Tatula. One moment led to him going from third to sixth in the blink of an eye.
Do you think what Sipala did, by the way, on the start-finish straight, do you think that was over the line at all? Because I'll be completely honest, I think it was quite far over the line.
It was aggressive. Was it over the line? I need a better look at it because I think I lost my mind as soon as I saw him try and do a Michael Schumacher at Hungary all the way to the inside wall.
It felt like the defence, I mean, you know me, we've spoken about this before, there's two types of defence, it's proactive and reactive.
Yep.
That felt very, very reactive.
Well,
he was responding to what was happening behind.
Here you go, from up above. Definitely reactive.
Still squeezing. I mean, he does keep leaving the room. I just say it's too far.
If it's not a penalty, it is a very stern warning. How about that?
Yeah. I would agree with that, because if not, Lullum might give him a bit of a warning in the form of a knock on the rear. Not saying it would be intentional, but there will come a point, and always with a race like this, if you are racing around someone that's like really, really aggressive like that, there comes a point with a lot of drivers where they just go, fine, if you are going to defend like that, I'll just leave my nose down the inside.
Exactly.
And when you go for the chop, we'll both be in the wall, and it's your fault.
And I want to
that's how racing drivers think.
And I want to revisit the earlier incident, by the way. I just want to reiterate, despite the fact that that was a horrific incident, I genuinely feel for the other car that made the contact here. He's in a race at a level which he's never experienced before. He's got drivers at a speed he doesn't know what to do with. Now, yes, logically, it would be easy. Get onto the brakes, into the S's, let them fly on past. What happens then to the 20 other cars behind? It's one of those no-win situations. He panicked. He didn't know how to react. It's Pastor that loses out, but I don't want to make it worse than it already is for that 13 car.
Oh, yeah, because they'll feel terrible. I mean, like I say, the thing is, in a race like this, where I said it's single split racing in a sense of we've got, I said before, some of the most experienced drivers in all of sim racing battling here at the front in one big train, and then you've got some people that are fairly new to sim racing that just kind of wanted to do a little bit of racing with their mate. Now, when there was a couple of splits, when we've got enough people racing, like we've seen before, they'll race in their own split, back in split two, and they'll have a great time. When they're racing in this is a stressful environment. They don't know exactly what they've signed up for. And as soon as you, like, for me as a driver, if I'd have signed up to doing this with a mate and whatever, and then I looked at the entry list and I saw Lullum, I saw Beneke, I saw Dinez, Tatala, Hearth, Sarika, all those names, I'd have been like, right, this is going to be a bad afternoon.
Yeah. And if you're wondering why they're in this race, as we work past some more lap traffic, it's a public race for anyone to enter. We just don't have the numbers today, maybe track-related, maybe date-related, to fill up multiple grids on the track. So they're all forced onto the track at the same time. It is going to be nervy. Again, working through the S's, more lap traffic playing its part. No further action from race control for the 71 and the 707. So that would be red line red and Tumas Tasla into turn 5, I would assume. Not the block from Matti Sipala on Chris Lullum. Yes, it was a dive. I want to watch this entire sequence. Let's start into turn number 1.
Yeah, so around the outside, I mean, that was brave to try and hang it all the way around the outside there. But this builds and builds and builds. So as we come up through T4 towards T5, you've still got fully alongside. We're riding on board with Carl Janssen now. He sees a little bit of a squeeze here, just about giving room to the white line. Diving down the inside, Phil Dinez just makes up with the apex. But then Carl Janssen tries to slot his way through. Phil Dinez has to give a little bit of room and just squeezes out a little bit. I mean, that's a tricky scenario. That's what happens when you try and go around the outside of T5, though. And I'm not saying that it's not Phil Dinez's fault, or it is, or whatever. I'm just saying that it's a tricky corner to go on the outside of.
I'm disappointed that you didn't mention the incident that we saw here in the real world at the Honda Grand Prix of Alabama when Romain Grosjean and Graham Rahal came to blows on the exit of turn 5. Grosjean getting a bit of opposite lock as he tried to get onto the power, forcing his car wide into Graham Rahal. Rahal wasn't very appreciative of it. I think that's been the story, though, for Grosjean across of 2022. Front of the field, Sanchez starting to slip into the clutches of Beneke. Last time was half a second gain for the red line red car, searching for victory number 3 of the season. He's close to within 4 seconds. This time at the line, a tenth quicker for Beneke.
Yeah, it's starting to charge just a touch. Now remember, when it comes to race winners this season, the 71 has won 2 races this season, and whilst the 98 Alejandro Sanchez has been close, especially at the start of the season at Daytona, really hasn't taken it. We kind of think that it's a car that really should be up there. It should be in the mix. This time it looks very much as though that might be the case, but anyone who thought they were walking away and it was going to be a cruise to the checkered flag, well, I mean, you've never watched one of these races before. That's never the case.
Circle it in your book, by the way, if you didn't already. End of October, BMW Sim Live, 12 drivers fighting again, tooth and nail, for more than $70,000 US. Over the course of 2022, just for BMW Sim Racing, we will be awarding over $100,000 through this public competition. There's never been a better time.
Oh, in the background.
Ooh, is there more trouble with traffic? Klaus Weber off the track. He stays, though, on the grass, does not rejoin. We don't experience any more trouble.
Yeah, I think, like I say, just trying to stay out.
Sarika around!
I don't know if that was lap traffic related. I'm not sure, as well, this is painful. Obviously, they've got a relative and stuff, so they can see what's going on. And you can see... Don't drive straight into him. Okay, you're all right. And a retirement. What a day for Williams.
Well, Sarika at that point was already outside of the top 20. I think it's a fair assumption that he would not have been scoring any points.
Yep.
So maybe that was the decision there in what would have been a frustrating afternoon, to not let that build up anymore. We'll grab a look at what happened. A second Williams car retires in the opening 30 minutes of the race.
Yeah, big shame indeed for Williams, who now realistically, when it comes to top runners, well, it's that car there in the middle of your focus, Carl Janssen, presently being the only car left really in the race. They do have Josh Ladd, of course, but running a little bit further down than where we're seeing Carl Janssen at the moment. Sammy Matty Trogan being the teammate in the number 1 car. They're going to feel a lot of weight on their shoulders now, surely.
Let's go ahead and look at the sequence of corners that led to the Williams car going around. It starts with Weber into the flip-flop S's, which is flat, although it is scary. There's then a moment, I'm not sure if that's with the red line blue car or if it was on the curb by himself, that will spit him around. And while that goes on, it's another car having a similar sort of an issue, the 13. There is a healthy dose of air. Sarika can do nothing but see the car spin around.
I think Williams Esports are going to start hating that corner and that car. As it is the same car corner combo that's caused them issues again, just in a slightly different way. That is a very big shame.
Williams would have been hoping for some of their drivers that BMW Sim Live was an attainable goal. As it stands right now, they'll leave Barber with it not being attainable. Also getting word, the 777, so Matty Siebler versus Team Redline Blue. So Chris Lullum, that moment on the start-finish line, no further action from race control.
Fair enough. Carl, there was a room given. I mean, I would bare minimum give a warning, but I am not race control, and they work hard behind the scenes to dish out penalties and stuff, and they've got to react quickly in this scenario. Always, you know, I've always said it, whether you agree with race control, disagree, whatever, you've got to respect the decision. Whatever they say goes. In this scenario, that's all well and good, so get out there, boys, and let's go racing.
Top 10 will score points. Half an hour of racing officially in the books. Halfway through to the pit cycle. We'll be curious, of course, to see with these weather conditions what we're thinking about in terms of strategy calls. Move forthcoming maybe into turn 1. Backing out of it was the Kova machine. That was close. That was closer than I thought he would have wanted to push it. At this stage in the race, you do need to be thinking about the gaps. If you lose a second, like Johan Hoff potentially will, to Janssen in front, it's not a second you can easily expect to make back up.
No, you've got to. Let's say, for example, you're saving tires, you're saving fuel, whatever you're doing to kind of reach the pit window in the way that you've practiced, that you've rehearsed. Well, you got to kind of think of it as like as a currency. You've saved it up. If you want to close down that second again, well, you've got to spend some to get onto the rear end so that you can start saving again. And that is a tricky dynamic to try and understand. And you only really get that when you're the driver. And in this scenario, I'd probably tell, if I was in the boots in the Apex Racing team, for one, I would be much further back. But for two, it's kind of in this scenario, you almost have to wait for a bit of lap traffic to kind of bring those two back to you, because you can't really afford just spending those tyres, spending that fuel to try and close that gap back in. You need a little bit of assistance from the traffic to bring those two back in to your little group.
On board with the 707 of Tatala, Kova feeling a little bit aggrieved to some extent. Mentioned earlier, 3 consecutive races building to this one where in those final 15-20 minutes of the race, with a Kova car trying to hang on with worn rubber, they have been turned around by teams and drivers on fresher tires with a slightly different strategy. Again, another race, more drama for Kova. No race control intervention, albeit for the time being. There is still a long way to go in this race. By no means are we guaranteed a clean run to the checkered flag. And at the front, it started to build up again. At one point, the gap under 4 seconds. It's now 5.6. Sanchez has found the momentum again, has found the clean air.
I don't actually think it's Sanchez's lap time that's been the decider in that. If you look at the lap times from Beneke, well, he sped up when that gap was closing down. It's because Beneke got into the mid to low 20s, which is where this car's running, in the mid to high 20s rather. Sorry, not mid to low, mid to high 20s.
Oh!
Whoa!
And in front of the race leader, lap traffic goes off.
Hot damn, that was Zoomers. I'm not sure who with. All I can tell you is that is very much requiring a change of underwear. I would not be about that. No, thank you.
I think I require a change of underwear right now, let alone what the drivers are going through. Just add another to the list of moments that our race leaders would not want to remember. Here's a look on board directly with Sanchez, and
oh wow, that is, I mean, the thing is, he didn't lose any time. He kept picking. Good effort. Obviously could read what was going on. That's kind of, you have to learn this. You learn it a lot from endurance racing when you're doing multi-class endurance racing, is that you have to be like a clairvoyant. You essentially, you have to predict the future and try and find a way through, which is what the 707's doing, straight down the inside of the Apex Racing team. Thomas Tatala trying to find his way past Johan Harth, and does so.
Was a bit of a late move, but the Frenchman gave him the racing space. Will he force it into 7? No. Harth backs out of it, tucked into line. It's an Apex sandwich with the Kova bread right now.
Good man. I've already corrected someone on that this morning. That was,
I'm glad.
My brain was like, hang on a sec, that is correct. It is indeed an Apex sandwich because it's named after the filling with Kova, tasty, wholesome Kova bread right now. And they'll try and close back up to the rear ends of Janssen and Denez. I kind of wonder if that might have almost been a tactical step, in a sense. Obviously not fighting it from Johan Harth to be like, okay, that's fine. You can go through because now you're the one that's going to be burning fuel. You're the one that's going to be burning tyres, trying to catch those two ahead, and I can just follow you.
On board with Seepola. The 777 runs now behind Johan Harth. The top 16 had only one switch up in the opening 3 minutes of the race. Since then, one by one, there are cars falling. Some are taking advantage. Inside of the top 10, the biggest mover is the number 1, the Williams Esports BenQ machine, with Carl Janssen behind the wheel right now. He is up into that 4th position, hunting down the Zebra. Windshield wiper goes off on the 777 of Kova. Now, of course, rain is not far away from joining the iRacing party. If you want a race that's more chaotic than this one, Lewis, just throw rain in.
Oh yeah. It's the wet weather's going to add a few things to the mix, which I don't know if I'm ready for, if I'm honest. Especially when you have races like this where they're just so crazy over the first 35 minutes or so. I mean, wet weather in this as well would be pretty mad, but I'm up for it. I'll give it a go. I'm more excited about it from a commentary perspective than from a driver's. There's a lot to juggle when you're behind the seat. From a commentary perspective, though, we just get to talk about it, and when it all goes wrong, we get to laugh about it.
Well, I think there is going to be an inflection point when the rain comes as to, especially in these shorter 2-hour races, how do you approach them? We've talked to the likes of George Simmons before about how he approaches running strategy for a race, part of course, the Apex Racing team. While George is a very capable TCR driver, uses his experience working in mission control for the McLaren Formula One team to build a structure and a process for sim racing that has allowed the Apex Racing team to fight with the likes of Coanda in races that Coanda have dominated for years past. And of course, while we're talking about rain coming and how people like George Simmons are going to have fun developing new processes and new structures to win races with rain in iRacing, new news for George Simmons, let's give him a bit of a shout out, has signed up with Veloce Esports to work in F1 Esports later on this year as their head of engineering. Always good to see sim racers taking on new endeavors. Give a shout out to George, Lewis. We love what George does.
Absolutely. I mean, as long as this doesn't stop him from making those pretty models, I'm okay. You know what I mean? The thing is, when it comes to being race engineers and stuff in sim racing, we've said before how critical they are for basically every team to have a decent race engineer. But in the same way that with drivers and livery designers and everything, when you have them taken to such a high level of professionalism, we're seeing that from race engineering as well. Where race engineers, don't get me wrong, we've always taken it quite. I was a bit wide there from the Williams Esports BenQ car of Janssen, by the way. When we've always taken like race engineering very, very seriously. That's fair enough. But when you're having people that do it for a living, actually for major motorsports companies, be it in Formula One or in GTs racing around the world, in the World Endurance Championship, wherever. Now we're having they're involved in the mix and they're the ones that are leading the charge on strategy. That you as a regular muggle now have to react to some of the absolute best in the business in every single way. It is crazy how fast sim racing is changing on these sides.
Whoa, watch who you're calling a muggle, Mr. Mrs. Pit Lane, and forgets the box when he needed to pit.
Mr. I'm going to use all of the fast repairs and don't care about my teammate.
It was a charity race, to be fair. I definitely did not care about the car or my teammates. But
that's fair.
Yeah, this is not that sort of a race. It's been 2 odd years since I've done competitive team racing here on iRacing. The one thing I don't miss is the feeling of and the weight of expectation when you've done all of these hours of prep, especially we're talking, right, Kova, doing full simulations of all the different tire variations there are. That is a 10-hour commitment to practice for the series. I don't miss the weight of expectation that comes with that, especially given the context of the race that we're having here today.
Ooh. Deepler, sorry, yeah, as we're saying, that Seepler and Hearth going side by side, coming through. Oh, there's going to be a bit of lap traffic here. Oh, Seepler trying to squeeze it through when there is a bit of lap traffic trying to get out of the way. I can tell you that was never going to work, not in a million years.
Yeah, that was a little bit close for comfort. It is getting stretched from third on back as a result of all of the lap traffic. Janssen has lost a full second to Dinez. Tatler a second further back, 1.6 then to Hearth and Seepler, who continue to fight in towards 7. Theba in front of Kazubon as Luke Akita's recovery drive sees him up into 17th spot, plus 21 positions. The Urano number 90 is now in front of the Williams Esports Razor car that started in 17th spot.
And also, look who's just coming through in the background of shot. Not only has Luke Akita been able to work his way up the order, but also almost drag him through every single position that Keita's made up. Dylan Scrivens, a couple laps later, makes up the same spot. The two of them have been working their way up the order fantastically. Again, maybe points isn't fully off the table. It might only be 9th or 10th. They might need a little bit of drama up ahead, but there is still the possibility, there is still the chance, there is still the hope that something might happen soon.
Look at a moment for the red line ice blue car of Alexander Theba. Traffic in front, of course, but this is not related to the traffic. In fact, it was, and again it's the 13. It was not Theba, it was Kazubon, excuse me, that had the moment, but again, change of underwear ordered for the number 8 machine.
And the 777, by the way, has just made a move. Matty Seepler has just got to the inside. Oh my goodness, every time I see that replay, that is absolutely terrifying. Though the live pictures, you can see Seepler trying to force the move and complete the move on Johan Hearth. Bit of lights flashing from Hearth once again, and the 777 makes its way through.
This is certainly a race. One of the races we've had in this 2022 BMW Sim GT Cup as we build to BMW Sim Live. Yes, it's crazy. Yes, it's chaotic. Sometimes, though, these are the challenges that are thrown into the driver's hands. How do they adapt? How do they work themselves forward? We're just coming off, of course, the end of the iRacing Off-Road Championship Series. If there was a championship that devolved around chaos and revolved rather around chaos, it was that championship. Those drivers had to survive. These drivers have to survive as well.
Bad.
The 777 gets checked up by some lap traffic, straight back to the inside, Hearth back to 6th.
Yeah, it was the Square Motorsports Team grey car that was just trying to kind of get out of the way there. And I get why Siepeler read it the way that he did, because he was kind of like not really expecting the car to do anything. Well, I was trying to expect to do basically everything and tried to pick each way around it. Now he's going to try and instantly get back there, wasting so much time in this battle as Johan Hearth once again doesn't defend it, almost jumps out of the way as once again Matti Siepeler takes over the position of 6th place. The lights flashing, that's a signal to be like, get on with it, sir.
I think it's the recognition as well behind. Lullum, Pinto, Kimichev, Laubish are all closing. Last couple of laps, the gap has been cut down. Siepeler is now 3.5 back from Tuomas Tatila, who he was running around with just about 15 minutes ago. How quickly this race can change. 17 minutes away from the top of the hour, and our one and only mandatory pit stop.
Yeah, they've got to switch drivers. They might have to switch tyres. There's no rule for anyone who's just jumped in for BMW Sim GT Cup. There is no rule on tyre changes. You can change them. You don't have to. We can see them do no tyres, 2 tyres, 4 tyres. When we've raced before in the series, like races back in Hockenheim, but more so when we did that race at Road Atlanta earlier on the season, we saw all 3 different types of strategy being run moderately successfully as well. There is a lot open.
3 wide into turn 1, and lap traffic is about to cause a huge one. I'm sorry, I'm about to lose my calm right now because Ascari Rene got out of the throttle, watching the car, sending it into turn 1. Theba survives, Kazbon holds on, Rene still in 15th. Almost more disaster for those outside the top 10.
Yeah, not going to lie, I'm trying to be fair here to some of the traffic. I am not okay with that. That was way too much from the Square Motorsports Team grey car. Like I say, I get trying to get out of the way. You've pulled over to one side, so lift, no. And it just leaves it in there. That is extremely dangerous and very well read. Very, very well read by the R8G and Kova car.
Yeah, let's, see from the perspective of the Kova car.
Nah, I'm good, thanks.
I've got a number of messages from communities, members asking what's going on for this race, you know, etc., etc., etc. It's the chaos of a public event. And that's what I like about the BMW Sim GT Cup in some ways. Yes, it can be difficult for the drivers, but it is public, available to anyone. The $42,000 that we're paying out could be won by you and me, although that's taking it quite far.
What do you mean?
You and me beating Sanchez. Are we really going to do that without disconnecting his internet?
Well, yeah, we just don't join the same car as everyone else.
Oh, we join as an the BMW LMDH car. I get.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, okay.
Like, yeah, they've got a prototype on the way. Let's jump in that. It'll be fine. We might just win, maybe.
Just by half a second.
Yeah. No, it's like I say. It's I'm kind of a guy that likes the idea that esports in sim racing, we have it open where we can have those. I mean, yeah, you know where I come from. But the challenge where it is for the elite, it is for the few that can actually make their way onto it, that can pay the entry fee and be a part of the series. But also, you can have the series where it is wide open for every single person to enter, where if you've just picked up sim racing for the first time, you can jump on. I like the idea that we live in a world where sim racing, you can have both of those things. Or you've got your esports championships where you can do endurance racing and you can not have safety cars, and then somewhere you can have safety. We are open to everything. There is the own thing that you can make for each championship. This is open to everyone. I love that. But sometimes I watch it and I'm like, this is heart and mouth stuff for everyone involved.
Just a reminder as well, we do have live race control, but as it runs right now, no decisions have been handed down from race control that would warrant a penalty. It's been no further actions so far, with 13 minutes ago till the top of the racing hour. We mentioned the BMW LMDH. We would be remiss if we did not mention the IMSA Esports Global Championship coming to RaceSpotTV and to VCO later on this year. It's going to be a ball. Manufacturer representation, BMW will put forward their entries to fight for the IMSA Esports Global Championship. Going to be very excited as GT3s and TCRs take to iRacing across of the likes of the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and to close out the season, the Daytona International Speedway. It will be a treat. Front of the field. It's always good when you don't talk about a leader, especially in a race like this. Alejandro Sanchez is working his way calmly, one by one, through the chaos of the traffic. Still 4.5 seconds clear of the number 71, Red Line Red, led by Maximilian Benecke.
Yeah, for both the 98 of Sanchez and the 71 of Benecke, and to some degree the 89 of Dinez, although I'd say actually not so much, certainly not now. They've got an easier time through traffic because they're the lead car. They're the one that makes the move to kind of go through the traffic one at a time. And because, for example, like with Sanchez and Benecke, because they've got no one right up their rear end, they can kind of pick and choose the risk that's required. Phil Dinez doesn't really have it. Has a little bit of it, where you can maybe choose. Carl Janssen, no. If Carl Janssen makes one misstep through traffic, Thomas Tattler is making a move straight away without a second guess. There will be move, and you have to then rush your way through traffic. That's where mistakes can happen because you're almost being pushed through traffic, and the car behind knows that. And so the closer you get to traffic, the closer they want to get to your rear because they want you to make a big mistake going through traffic because it's a free position.
Remember, top 10 grab points on the road to BMW Sim Live. You score points as a team. Our championship classified by drivers. The top 12 work their way to BMW Sim Live at the end of October. What was hopefully going to be an in-person event, thanks to the year that is 2022, unfortunately will be online only again. Slightly disappointed that we don't get to do the fun in person. LAN events always have a different atmosphere, a different intensity, Lewis.
Oh yeah, no, I obviously had one fairly recently.
Showing off,
so
making
much
me
fun.
jealous.
Absolutely. They're a lot of fun to be able to meet drivers, to prove that you are actually a real human being and that you do exist. It's a lot of fun as more lap traffic is being navigated bit by bit. I mean, it is literally like rush hour on the M25, sometimes trying to just work your way through. It's brave stuff, but I think this is the kind of race that I can guarantee would be very, very different if it was in person.
Right.
Because when you're behind your keyboard, you're behind the wheel, racing from your own PC, you can be a little bit naughty, shall we say, through traffic. Or even if you are the traffic. In person, you know that if you do that, you're going to be having someone coming up to whatever rig you're on and being like, so that move then, good sir.
Right. And
everyone drives differently.
To be clear, we do not advocate for violence. However,
I'm not saying violence.
Right. To quote a world championship level driver, the worst thing about sim racing is that when someone crashes me out, I can't go and shout/punch their face.
So true.
But that's the thing. Even in the real world, if you crash someone out, there's the reality they return serve and you get crashed out as well. I really want to be part of an in-person event. I cannot wait till my first one. Hopefully not too far away, but it'll be exciting to see how we close off BMW Sim Live. Of course, it's not just about BMW Sim GT Cup competition. If you're an Assetto Corsa Competizione fan, you can join the best of ACC and run in the 10-lap time attack qualifiers to compete in BMW Sim Live. And that is not just in one car, that is across of BMW vehicles available on the platform.
Yeah, which is, again, whilst we see a lot of GT3 racing and stuff, it's not the only bit of motorsport that BMW take part in, and not the only bit of sim racing representation that BMW have had across loads of platforms. BMW is a top brand. We've said it before, this isn't even like a paid line. If there was a GT3 that I would pick to race, 9 times out of 10 it is actually the M4, because it's the most predictable, I find, to drive. Not the easiest, but I feel it is the most predictable.
And even talking to real drivers, our own Tyler Maxon got to drive a BMW M4 GT3 at the 24 Hours of Dubai earlier. He really enjoyed his first experience of it. The number 1 Ben Q Williams Esports machine to the outside of lap traffic, and I think just trying to prove a point there by chopping off the nose. Here comes the 707 trying to follow as well. Not going to be given up as easily for Tattler, who loses a couple of car lengths in that battle for the final step of the podium. These guys at one point were, what, 5 seconds adrift from your race leader? They're now 12 seconds adrift from the race leader.
Yeah, they're losing time hand over fist, and it is becoming the battle for the final step on the podium. Realistically, that's just how these races go. The more time you lose, it leads to more time being lost, which leads to more time being lost. Which, yeah, it's not fun. I mean, we've seen them battle between themselves, losing a lot of time in doing so, because they're trying to kind of get on with it. It's kind of one of those things where you've got to think big picture early on in the race. You've got to think what's achievable and whether it's worth fighting. We normally do see that. That's why we normally see them in the train. I'm kind of glad that we're not seeing that because that's where we get the action. You know, it's not thinking big picture. It's not thinking the end of the race. It's thinking, what can I do now? How do I make a move now? Which has been very exciting. It does mean that it's basically just a 2-horse race between Apex Racing and Team Redline Red. But that can change in the pit stops if they pick the wrong strategy, if they take 4 tyres, if they don't, if they take no tyres. That can really change the ebb and flow of this race.
I am very much looking forward to seeing what gambles teams elect to take in the strategy cycle. Only about 7 minutes, 4 or 5 laps away from seeing exactly how it's going to play out. Talk plenty more about the world of BMW Esports. Give a shout out to Gregor Schill, yesterday's SRO Esports US finale, coming across the line splendidly in the Turner Motorsport / BS competition liveried BMW M4 GT3. Still though, looking at this fight for the final step of the podium. Behind Phil Denez, it's Carl Janssen and Thomas Tattler. They fight for 7th. Lullum, Hearth, Pinto throw a blanket over them with traffic playing a factor on the run into turn 7.
Yeah, Santos trying to get out of the way in one of the SAS cars. Now we've got the Redline Purple car. Yeah, smart move there. Really, really smart from Diogo Pinto. I mean, he's not an iRacing World Champion for nothing. Was slightly side by side there with Johan Harth and backed out of it. Did not want to try and get around the outside of 7. It's not really a corner which you can... I mean, you can give it a go. It's just the nature of that corner. You've got to be very, very brave and very, very alongside to give it a go. But still, Harth does drop the single position to Lullum, who's now up into 7th.
Through the crest into the final sector, we ride with Pinto. As the run has gone on, more and more drivers migrating to that single line. No alternate lines taken through that penultimate corner. But you see the run that Pinto has. Harth is starting to struggle maybe on the tyres, albeit slightly. Pinto gets the run, doesn't go for the lunge.
But was very, very close to giving it a go. Vlad Kimachev also closing back in and dragging his teammate of Nicholas Laubish also into the train. As you're saying, to counter or to add to the point that Johan Harth might be struggling on tyres because Lullum started to pull away quite significantly. Is this Pinto going for the inside? Late move straight down there. Does he pull it up to the apex? Not quite. Or a bit of a brush between the two that was kind of a bit harder than it actually was. Don't worry about it too much. But that has opened the opportunity for Vlad Kimachev to come through also.
Yeah, that door was not just opened, it was blown open. Kimachev through, Laubish unable to convert. Harth, again, not for the first time, into turn 5, forced to give space, recognized the move was coming. I wonder if Race Control will take a look at that one. Thibaut Casabon off the track down at turn 7. Trying to rejoin safely now. An awful place to be stranded. And the number 8 car, after his near-death experience just a handful of laps ago, again's in tears for the number 8.
That is a very big shame for R8G, who now have just one car on the cusp. Who just came into the pit lane? Was that...
Harth.
Harth. Yeah, Johan Harth did come into the pit lane.
And that is not just early, it's impossibly
Super
early. How does he...
They must be really struggling on tyres.
Jamie Fluke will be the next man in the car. Luca Kita is also into pit road.
Maybe you can save the fuel from this point, but
tyres.
Well, the thing, so if you change all 4, you could be going for a serious undercut, right? That could be the the attempt, is that you're going for a very serious undercut and accept that, because it can be quite difficult to pass around here and accept that you're probably going to be struggling a bit later on.
How does that even happen? This is on the exit of turn 2, down the hill, rising to the crest that leads into turn 5. Up and over has gone the iconic motorsports machine of Eric Hausler. Francois Santos in the SAS Racing Black car has also encountered some difficulties. I don't know how you wreck there, but we're finding new ways to wreck throughout Barber. Here's a look at what happened to Kazabon, and it's assisted from the number 8 behind, I think. Oh no, the RAG car is the number 8 one, excuse me.
Yeah, they definitely got some assistance in that, though. That we can see for certainty. That is suboptimal. That is the iconic motorsports car. I did think so, because I mean it's a very obviously being a generic livery. Yeah, that was very, very naughty from the iconic motorsports car for sure.
You say naughty. I say he was already a couple of laps down.
Yeah.
Now more takers to pit lane. It's a duo of Urano machines. Kiminchev leaves Laubish down to pit road. Also in this time, Kieran Harrison, Dylan Shrivens. It's a busy time in pit road.
Missed the box. I'm pretty sure that the 93 that Laubish was behind, I'm pretty sure it missed the box slightly. Had to reverse.
Small mistakes can cost you big time in this BMW Sim GT Cup. Just ask Alejandro Sanchez. Slid through the box at Daytona, went from being in the leading quadrant, or quartet at the front of the field, to running in third by himself for an hour after that. So now 4 more cars onto pit road.
Yeah, it was a very, very painful day there. I kind of wonder as well if they're going to try and get out of some lap traffic. Beneke getting stuck with a fair amount of it. You can see in live pictures coming around to complete another lap is Sanchez. How does this car flip then?
Oh,
it's pure physics. Gotcha.
Yes, pure physics.
Pure science, that is.
Yes, that is science. Let's ride on board with Kieran Harrison, the SimRC machine, who was up inside of the top 15. Not the first time and not the last time a leader would have been close to disaster. Sanchez still out there on track, leading the way. 39 started this race. Yes, we're in the midst of a cycle. Only 14 cars are left on the lead lap.
Wow, yeah. Obviously, we're kind of waiting for a few to come through the pit lane, but the pace differential between front and back has been very, very extreme today. You can see Nathan Lewis jumping in for Phil Denez. Of course, the pit lane sequence of Ascari Rene also in the Kova car. I mean, I am amazed how early some of these pit stops are. Normally, 9 times out of 10 when we do these, it tells me that fuel mileage is not really a massive factor. Normally when we do the BMW Sim GT Cups races, the pit stop is you are pitting well after the hour part, like 58 minutes, 56 minutes in some cases left to go in the race, then you're pitting. This is a very different style of race.
It's gotten warmer, 52 degrees on the track, and given the relatively cool air temperature, the fact that the sun has baked the track to the level it has is remarkable. It is notable. Do not expect these levels of temperatures through the rest of the season. Again, a little bit of drama for the leaders as they work through lap traffic. It's Siepola this time that lose a little bit of ground. Couple more cars exiting pit road. Jamie Fluke will leave pit lane. Excuse me, is Jamie Fluke back down on pit lane? He is! So Johan Harth handed over to Jamie Fluke, but there is drama for the 99 car as it returns to the safety of pit lane.
That's a big shame. Is it because they need a little bit extra fuel or something?
They have a black flag.
They have a black flag?
Now, would that be for speeding on entry or exit? That's the question.
Yeah, that makes some sense. That's rough, though. What has been a pretty bad day gets a lot worse. Still got 1 car in it, leading the race at the moment. Do Apex, but that's a big shame. Oh, drama.
That was the NVW number 100.
Tattler.
Was that Tattler involved?
No, Tattler's not going for a move. He's just gone around the outside of the S's. Tattler has just made a pass on Janssen. That's brave stuff.
Confidence as we wind into a pit stop cycle. It's what you like to see. So Tattler works forward. Will he dive to the left? Pit entry is high commitment. There he goes. Whoa. You can see the different speeds. Those staying on track, those diving to pit lane. Tattler will box. Janssen stays out.
I mean, it's a fast pit entry. That's kind of where you'd have to say if we see many speeding in the pit lane, it's probably on that pit entry, just being super aggressive, trying to take every little 100. Let's see how we had a little bit of a spin coming down through 7 and 8.
So it's side by side. Works out okay. Oh, and then a little bit sideways, and then the lines converged. The NVW car got rather lucky in some ways, if you ask me. Then, taking advantage was Tattler, straight through the S's, not the traditional passing opportunity. Confidence from the Finn.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful move that was. That was top-tier stuff from Thomas Tattler. Shows the experience and the bravery. Obviously, he'll jump out of the car straight away, but that's a good high to end on. That's sort of like, right, okay. I'm off to the pub.
Confirmation.
Like, whatever happens now is like, I'm good.
Confirmation from the Apex Racing team. It was on exit for Jamie Fluke that the penalty was picked up. And, you know, your first act in the car to get penalties, it's always a tough pill to swallow and then to fight back from.
That's serious pain. Is that from speeding in the pit lane, or was it from going over the blend line? How long does the blend line go for?
Yeah, well, we'll see right here, right, as Beneke goes past the top of the hour. Left side is that pit exit.
It might be that.
It might be that. We'll try and get a look if we can.
Speaking of IndyCar stuff, I remember Will Power doing it in 2014, 15.
Daniel Lorenzo, huge crash, a huge wreck. Maybe an RAG car involved as well as they try and gather up and go. That's Florian Lebigre, was just on the outside of the qualification spots for BMW Sim Live.
Yeah, this is getting a bit manic now, as there's going to be some side-by-side coming down. Sim RC to the outside, really sending it in, trying to get around the outside there. This is getting dicey stuff after some pretty intense drama. Has got some lap traffic off the road.
That was Kova. Well. That was the 770 for Kova. Urinen has run off the road, seemingly on pit exit.
What is going on in this race? It has hit proper crazy town. I'm almost speechless. I don't even know. This is bad for a commentator, but goodness me.
Our job is to have words. I don't have thoughts, let alone words. It is that sort of a day. It is that sort of a race. Let's pick up what happened then. Urano versus RAG, the alternate line to the inside, and it's going to converge. Two go into one. Now, there was this tiniest bit of overlap. Urano will say that I'm alongside. Lebigre shouldn't have turned in. Urano will argue you were coming from a mile back. You were only marginally alongside.
I mean, yeah, I think there might even be a bit of air as well. Basically, it's not pretty. Those are kind of mistakes that we expect at the final penultimate corner. That one is definitely one that I'd hand off to race controller and be like, I have no idea what to do. RAG come into the pit lane also of Lebigre to obviously make his pit stop, repair maybe a little bit of damage also, but yeah, big drama.
Ooh, well, okay, so Urinen just got a tank slap of his own. Very loose downhill through turn one. It is a tricky corner, deceptively tricky. High speed, high commitment. Urinen then lost some of the ground that he had just made up, taking advantage of the spill through the penultimate corner. Back to live pictures with pit stops flowing through. Sami Matti Trogan taking over from Carl Janssen in the Williams Esports Ben Q car. Valtteri Alander into the Kova 777. Dan Beats into the red line ice blue. RAG swap overs as well with Riley Sim Racing still on pit lane. We wait for the top four to roll down pit lane.
Yes, and whilst we're doing that, we were looking there at the fight between Urano, between Sim RC, the other Urano car, by the way, who have the debutant for them anyway, being Jonas Wallmeyer, moving over to them from Team Redline, jumping in for the first time in BMW Sim GT competition in 2022, whilst our race leaders and their main rivals follow them into pit lane at round about what we would expect as a normal pit stop time in the series.
This is when we thought the pit stops would happen. Drivers that went before the top of the hour will have the comfort and knowledge that they can go longer. The question is, how does that affect their speed? Pinto is the one to extend the longest of them all. He was tucked up behind the train of cars, doing the fuel saving. Pinto still out there on track.
Now the question is, what are we doing on tyres? 2, 4, 0?
Everybody.
Surely everyone is on 4. I doubt anyone would risk a 2 right now.
Yeah, sorry, I completely blanked over that. Over the last 10 minutes, but every car that has come into pit lane has spent a minimum of 63.5 seconds stationary in the box. It is 4 tires across the board. I think the variation coming here is in the amount of fuel that they'll load in to get to the checkered flag.
Yeah, and I think that is being brought on as well with the Apex Racing team as well, still up on the jacks doing 4 tyres. They've come down from it and they are now released from pit lane. That'll be definitely a 4 tyre stop, but they've had to put less fuel in because they've been able to do all the distance. They only have to put 54 minutes of fuel. Oh, there's a car also just on the pit exit. Kevin Ellis Jr. had to basically come onto the brakes straight away.
Oh, well. Yet another twist in the turn of this BMW Sim GT Cup round 8 at Barber. Vecchio will roll behind a lander and behind Lewis as well. Will come out potentially in front of Sam Coitert. Pinto has gone yet another lap. We are an hour and 7 minutes into the race. Diogo Pinto's fuel tank still has some fuel left to give as his teammate will fire it down the inside to get back onto the leading lap. Diogo Pinto is the fuel whisperer.
Do you think Luke Bennett's sat there in the pit lane ready to take over this Team Redline Turbo car being like, come on mate, give me a go, let me have a go, please, at some point today? I mean, super effort. It means that they're going to be, again, stationary for less time than some of their rivals. They'll be able to, even if they put a little bit extra fuel, they might be able to push a little bit harder. Luke Bennett's obviously a fantastic driver, picked up by Redline in the not super recent past, but still fairly recent, as we've got some side-by-side between Cobra and RHG again.
Whoa. Julian Sonnen saying, no mate, you're not getting me into turn 7, as Urainen tries to recover from his little spill that he had by himself into turn 1. Sonnen coming off, I forget the name of the series that he's racing in, but has got behind the wheel of a real Formula open wheel machine, doing quite well in a national competition in France. Now, next step for him, the finals of that championship. Behind the wheel in 16th for the time being, having taken over that number 88 car for RHG, as the front of the field sees Diogo Pinto rolling to pit lane, as finally we say all cars have visited the safety of pit lane.
And that proves to me again that fuel mileage probably isn't the big talk of the town today. It explains why a lot of people were pitting very, very early, because they know they can make this kind of distance. As here's the Williams Esports BenQ car. Sammy Matty Trogan straight behind the wheel, just a little bit into the rear end of Sam Coitert. That was just a touch, not too much between them. But the Williams Esports BenQ car, after dropping back a little bit through the pit lane sequence, is trying to charge its way back up.
I remember commentating on Sammy Matty back in 2020 when I had just started my commentary journey. Sammy Matty was in the midst of a blockbuster run of form, coming off, of course, the iRacing Rallycross World Championship. Now, of course, has signed the full-time contract with Walkenhorst Motorsport, campaigned in a BMW M4 GT3 car around the world, coming off a year where he's just raced in the 24 hours of the Nürburgring. I don't think he will have ever been in a race like this. Don't know if he's raced much at the Barber Motorsports Park before.
Also, you've got to ask, when you say never been in a race like this, do you then instantly follow that up with, is that a positive or a negative? That's
yes.
The real thing. Luke Bennett, by the way, behind the wheel of the 69 car, rolling down the exit of pit lane, and might well come out ahead of that battle that we were just seeing come through as well, because Vecchio's over the rear end of Lewis, and coming out straight behind is Luke Bennett.
So Bennett's in a great spot. They put a decent chunk of fuel in the car. I think they've thrown in the fuel expecting Bennett to go on the offense. Vecchio, though, will fire it to the inside of Lewis. The Zebra gives space, running door to door on the exit of turn 5. Vecchio tries to bundle Lewis into the grass. Lewis is having none of this. He knows how to run side by side into turn 7. Will he commit to the inside, into the chicane? They're going to try and do it side by side. Vecchio with the confidence to sling it to the outside of the corner. Vecchio up into 5th. Lewis now watches as Bennett goes to his inside.
What a brave moment there from Gianni Vecchio to have made that stick. Luke Bennett, who's just jumped into the car, now has to try and find a way past Nathan Lewis straight away. What a moment, though. Brilliant respect, and just millimetres of space given above a car, with absolutely brilliant scenes there between Gianni Vecchio and Nathan Lewis. Super stuff. But as one Redline car gets through, the next one is waiting for its opportunity.
I've been side by side with Nathan Lewis down the hill at turn 7 in an Indy car. We were both sideways. Would you believe, Lewis, that we survived?
I wouldn't. I've watched your driving.
Oh, true, fair.
That's a no.
I've got more iRacing top split appearances than you.
That's true. I mean,
I've got
6 now. Well, I mean, yeah, I've had some top split appearances, just not in anything that's competitive.
I meant, okay, we'll get into this argument later. Bennett to the inside, Lewis trying to defend. Consecutive laps with a red line car goes to the inside, and again, Nathan Lewis can do nothing but watch, as this time it's red line purple and Luke Bennett that gets it done through turn 5. Vecchio and Bennett now looking forward to close to Valtteri Alander.
Yeah, and you can see directly behind the Sam Quitter and Sammy Matty-Trogan. Sammy Matty-Trogan still not able to get through on the Urano Esports car, whilst we see a bit of a switch between Sonnen and Wallmeyer a bit further back, so a bit of progress being made.
Remember, top 10 score points. Behind Trogan is Dambeat with a 2-second buffer to Alexei Nesov, at least as it runs for the time being. Didn't get note from race control that the number 93, the Urano machine, that had the contact with R8G through the penultimate corner, the 88 that Julian Sonnen has now taken over, has been awarded a 5-second time penalty for the contact. And as a reminder, live race control will apply post-race time penalties if anything warrants further punishment from our race stewards. Urainen now loses out to Violate as he goes down the inside. Urainen struggling in the second stint of the race.
Yeah, like I say, when you jump into a car, normally in endurance racing, when you jump in, let's say you jump in 2 or 3 hours into the race, or if you're Govan Keeney's teammate, 10.5 hours into a race, sometimes you give yourself a couple of laps to build up into the rhythm, to get back into it, to kind of feel your way into the race, see what the grip levels are like, etc., etc. Whilst this is a multiple driver race where you would kind of classify it in the same vein as endurance racing to a certain degree, that is not the case. When you jump in behind the wheel, it is as if it's a green flag for your stint in a sprint race. You've got to be straight away banging in basically personal bests, or near as makes a difference, personal best straight away, every single lap, looking after the tyres, looking after the fuel, personal best. But it is relentless at this level, and it's why some people jump in and you kind of like, oh, they're really, really struggling. They're only lapping like 2 or 3 tenths off of what they're normally running, but that is a struggle at this level.
It was, what, a tenth of a second that split the top 5 in qualifying? The margins at this level are fine, they are small. We're talking about the top level of sim racing. That's what we've been talking about when it comes to BMW Sim Live, whether it's the BMW SIM GT Cup or the BMW Sim Time Attack hosted on Assetto Corsa Competizione. However, if you're an average Joe, you're like myself or Lewis, and you enjoy doing some racing here and there, and BMW is the car of your choice, well, the BMW Sim Trophy is all about you, all about representing BMW in a community of sim racing. For every race that you do in a BMW, no matter what platform it is, you can score points to compete in the BMW Sim Trophy. The more points are awarded, for the bigger the competition, the more races that you do. The team, the driver with the most points, will fight for their share of €2,500. For more information, visit discord.gg/BMW Esports. Lewis, you and myself, we've raced our fair share of BMWs before.
Yeah, I raced a BMW earlier on in the week at Suzuka. I mean, the BMW M4, it's a great fun car to drive around, but whatever you're racing, it's kind of, we have these allegiances in sim racing as well as you do in motorsport. You become fans of the brand, and you typically will race that on platforms where let's say, for example, you jump over to a set of course of competency and you think, hang on, what car should I pick? Well, I'm quite familiar with the BMW M4 on this platform, on that platform, so I might as well just take it. Bit of contact with a black back marker.
Yeah, Vecchio contact with the number 5, the SAS Racing black car, and now almost over the crest of the hill, Vecchio and Bennett escorted off into the grass. They survive, they hold on. Is there damage to the front of the number 70 Team Redline blue car? Does Vecchio have damage? Is he going to struggle with 45 minutes still left to play?
I think he might be okay. You can see a little bit of a scuff, but it's nothing too bad. I'm not 100% sure if he just literally drove into the back marker rather than like they're trying to get out of the way. They're trying to do their own little thing. Fair enough.
Sonnen's off. Sonnen is off.
Oh, big one.
The 88 again goes around, this time at Charlotte's Web in turn 5. One of those days for R8G, one of those days for Sonnen and his teammate.
And for Williams Esports as well, they've had a few issues today. Kova, though, running 3rd and 4th. They can't afford to battle between themselves. They've got to focus their attention ahead because a double of Team Redline are also closing in.
So look at this replay, and to be fair, it's just craziness. The 5 is kind of... Yeah, the 5 is thinking, okay, Vecchio's going to go around the outside. I can go tight, I can leave room. And it's the second part that really scares me, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, but he's taken a very, very tight line to try and give room for Vecchio. I don't know why Vecchio literally just solidly drove into him, but, you know, each their own on that one. Who's in the pit lane now?
Violate comes in. No penalty, no incident limit infringement.
Oh, it's broken, though.
Yep, just a broken car. A bad day for R8G. Does not appear as though with 2 races and 4 hours of racing left after this, that R8G will have a representative at BMW Sim Live at the very end of October. Jamie Fluke, we talked about his speeding penalty earlier. He's in 19th spot. Another car not looking like they'll get the points on the board. But Kevin Ellis Jr. has picked up exactly where Sanchez left off. Redline have been one of the dominant forces in the BMW Sim GT Cup, and before it, the BMW Sim 120 for now 3 years and counting. But the Apex Racing team are having a blockbuster of a 2022. They get stronger and stronger. They're building more and more. Kevin Ellis Jr. is 7 seconds clear of Patrick Holtzman.
Yeah, of course, we've seen Kevin Ellis Jr. on the podium a few times this season, along with Alejandro Sanchez in the first round and in the last 2. Sanchez also got a podium with Jamie Fluke back in Sebring, but this would mark it as a 3rd consecutive podium for Kevin Ellis Jr. and Alejandro Sanchez. They finished in 2nd, they finished in 3rd, and they might be winning a race as well.
Dan beats around through the final corner. Was he inside of the top 10?
I think 11th.
He was in that grouping with Nessoff and Spetz, who are now inside of the top 10. So that is a potential point lost for Dan Beats and his teammate Alexander Thieber.
Yeah, which is suboptimal to say the least. This means that this battle does carry an awful lot of weight with it, and especially, gotta be said, that 90. The journey it has had today, my goodness me, to have failed to qualify, what an effort. 28 positions gained. We said they might be able to score points. It might just be 1, but that will taste just like a victory after a day like that, surely.
And 25 points for Woolmeyer and Shrivens in the 92 Urano car on Woolmeyer's debut. Yes, he's almost 10 seconds back from his teammate, but given the situation, given the circumstances, don't think you could necessarily ask for too much more. Let's start with 2 more incidents that we have to look at. We'll begin with the R8G 88 car. What happens to them? And it's self-inflicted, you have to say, turning themselves on the 93.
Just was in way too hard, trying to arrest the car, bring it down to the apex. But I say trying to go for a move. We've seen a lot of these late lunges, but as the track falls away from you, that apex wasn't being hit. The only thing that was the Urano car.
The Urano car that already, of course, has a 5-second time penalty as well. Yep. So
they probably won't know that, though. Or they might. They should do.
They might know that since we've told at least some people on the broadcast. But yeah, again, with our live race control, it's difficult because it's an iRacing official session. We're limited in what we can do, which is why most of these penalties are post-race time penalties. I've seen a lot of people, asking why we're not doing things in the session. It's because it's a public event and we want it to be accessible to anyone. We could do this in private if we wanted to. Let's make this a community event. And it's the 5 car again. This time, you'd wonder, though, if that's all self-inflicted by Dan Beats.
Yeah, it's kind of, are you really alongside enough to really go for that? Just because they're a back marker doesn't mean they have to necessarily jump out of the way. You still have to lap safely. Yeah, for me, as much as I get, braking for that corner is a little bit tricky, but you've got to understand that you're racing around people that are a lot less experienced, a lot less confident than you, and you have to take that into account. You have to lap safely. For me, I think that's a little bit more on Dan Beats, if I'm perfectly honest.
Well, and if we're being fair as well here, to a lot of these top-level drivers, they're not used to the chaos of these public splits anymore, right? Because they so focus on the World Championships, on the private leagues, whatever competitions they race in with their teams. Whereas your average daily race, for example, your experience with Friday Night Primetimes and the iRacing Formula 4 series, I think it's fair to say it's been tumultuous.
Oh, it's been banter, is what it has been. But yes,
no lie,
like I say,
no cap. Sheesh.
When you're when you're racing, you know, like I say, it's essentially iRacing is public lobby racing. Everyone could do it. Everyone could come along and take part. Yes, you've got iRating and safety rating and all of that to come into account as well. But you're racing with absolutely everyone, regardless of the series. And like you say, when you do that day in and day out, you start to read situations a lot faster because you're racing with people that are maybe crazy, which I've definitely learned doing the IRA4 because. I mean, a lot of actual Formula 4 drivers and stuff go along and do that, and they are really crazy and do not care. And you get used to reading that. When you do your own like league racing and stuff, the World Championships, when you're kind of away from that frequently, you kind of lose that ability to read every little minute detail and try and predict, wait, this guy's got 0.9 KI rating? Okay, he's probably not doing this completely flat out corner flat at all. He might break and downshift, who knows? So you kind of have to give them a bit extra room. You've got to prepare.
And I think that is definitely something to think about. Drivers, I don't think, expected that to be the situation they were in for today. And I don't blame them either for not thinking that. But it's the reality of the situation. As it stands right now, with the fastest lap of the race going in the direction of Alejandro Sanchez, don't forget that's a bonus point that he'll get added to his tally as well. We'll add to the bonus point that he grabbed at Daytona at the very start of the season. I'm just grabbing a look up and down at the points as it stands right now. Kevin Ellis Jr. came into this one as the bubble driver, sat in 12th with 48 points. A victory today basically locks himself into BMW Sim Live as the 91 car, a little bit wide into the penultimate corner.
Gotta say, as much as he's been given the position, the car over in the easiest place really, in the sense of having a big race lead, what a few laps that Kevin Ellis Jr. has put in to have pulled out every single lap from that Team Redline Red car. It's approaching 10 seconds lead for this car at the moment. They are on a different planet on what has been a very difficult day, but complacency is the enemy. 37 minutes still remain in a race that anything can happen. We've seen people fall by the waysides courtesy of mistakes that are not in their control. That could very much happen to the 98 as well. You don't know.
Or as I knock on the wood, the dreaded technical issues that sometimes rear their heads. Another update from Race Control, another 5 seconds. This time it goes to the 88 for the contact with the 93. Those two have come together twice, each of them now dinged by Race Control.
Yeah, that doesn't shock me at all.
It's like when there's been a fight in the school ground, you call both kids in, you slap them both on the wrist, 5 seconds to you, 5 seconds to you. Let's not do it again, please.
Yeah, I mean, I know obviously it was two separate incidents, but Iowa has, you know how when there's two people racing and then they crash into each other and then it's it's a racing incident. They've both done something stupid. It's a racing incident. I'm like, no. They've both done something stupid. They both deserve a 5 second time penalty. And it's kind of, obviously these are two separate incidents, so it's not quite the same. But yeah, it's very much like a please stop. Please.
I like how you said that as well. Please.
Yeah.
Just
racing.
Racing is wonderful. Let's talk a little bit more about Barber very quickly. We talked about the 80 feet, about 24 meters of elevation change that it has. Very much has earned its nickname. The Alabama roller coaster has the just under 4 kilometers of the road course. Construction began in 2002. It's opened in 2003. It's less than 20 years old, but when you look at the track, you look at the lack of runoff, it feels like we've gone back in time to when racetracks were racetracks.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I would compare it to like some like British race because like you compare it to something like Brands Hatch, right?
Does Zach Sweeney know Brands Hatch?
No,
okay.
He doesn't know Barber. I can tell you that for free. But you kind of compare it to circuits in that kind of vein because it's what it kind of feels like. It's a bit of a roller coaster, a lot of undulation. If you make a mistake, you are visiting a barrier at high speed. It's those kind of things. But Brands Hatch has been a circuit for, well, I mean, they used to race to it in the 30s, obviously the Indy layout, backwards on dirt. But still, you're talking about a race circuit that was even tarmacked, I think, in the 40s, 50s maybe, was Brands Hatch. It's got that same kind of vibe as someone like this, but there are years apart. I love that a race circuit has been made in the last sort of 15, 20 years that captures that vibe. And kind of is a throwback to tracks of old, whilst kind of still keeping up modern standards.
Grade 2 facility, so you say modern standards. It is a modern facility. Of course, not certified for Formula 1, but basically anything else could come and race here. It's been home to the Grand Prix of Alabama for the NTT IndyCar Series since the start of 2010. It's not just about the track, but the Barber Vintage Motorsports Museum, the world's largest collection of racing motorcycles, over 1,600 items available to peruse. You can actually see the facility from the Turn 7 complex of corners. 33 minutes left to go, though, at Barber Motorsports Park. It's Kevin Ellis Jr., now almost 10 full seconds clear of Patrick Holtzman and Team Redline. Antiola, Valtteri Alander, Kova 3 and 4, with Vecchio Bennett, Redline 5 and 6. We've got 4 teams inside of the top 6 positions. Redline, the Apex Racing team, and Kova. Excuse me, 3 teams, because never trust the commentator's math. 2 of those teams have been dominant forces in this championship. The Apex Racing team have always had speed, Lewis. They've not always had the luck. They've not always had the consistency.
Yeah, they've not had the execution. They've been on the podium 4 times out of the 7 races that we've had. They've been in the top 5 an extra 2 times in the first couple of races as well. They had 2 cars inside the top 5 in that very first race of the season, looking to take a victory, their first victory of the season this afternoon. When it comes to victories this season, we've had Team Redline Blue, we've had 2 for BS Competition, 2 for Kova between 2 different cars, the 707 and the 777. And then we've had 2 victories as well for BMW Team Redline with Beneke and Holtzman. It's been a varied list, but you said it's like they're down on the bubble. They're on that point where they're kind of, without this race, it's kind of 50-50. Maybe they do make it, maybe they don't. They need a couple of decent results. This is the one decent result that relieves the entire pressure for the final 2 races of the season. They can go into Silverstone, they can go into Suzuka, and just kind of aim for a few points. Maybe they can take some risks and try and take the victory, rather than kind of going onto it in that need to win, that requirement. It's now or never.
Remember last year it was win or you're in. It was a lot more simple. You win, you lock yourself into BMW Sim Live. Of course, last year with 24, we thought at one point it would be Coanda versus Redline. Eventually, we got the likes of Kova, Valkyrie, Williams, stepping to the forefront of this BMW Sim GT Cup. There's only 4.5 hours left to stamp your authority on the path to BMW Sim Live. Some of these drivers, it is paramount to deliver the results now. Nessoff inside of the top 10 holds off Alexander Spetz for the time being, and that Williams Esports Razor car has grown the gap slightly as well. What a charge it was from Luca Kita, handing over to Alexei Nessoff as well. Urano definitely a team that, while they've been strong over the last couple of years, definitely felt like the last 12 months, new faces continuing to improve. The future looks bright for the team.
Oh yeah, they've made a lot of changes. They've taken some top-level talent like Jonas Wallmeyer, for example, like Luca Kita. They've made a lot of changes behind the scenes with drivers recently. It's kind of one of those teams that are moving forward each step. Now, maybe things haven't quite aligned just yet. Maybe they aren't getting the results that you would expect just yet. But trust me, those results are coming, because it's kind of one of those things that as soon as it clicks, a team like that will be a very, very hard team to beat. I mean, look at how well they did in something like VCO Infinity, where they really took the challenge to the top, nearly won the whole thing.
Hey, I still maintain they should have won.
Agree.
Except for Dylan Becky Shrivens, Formula 3s at Road America, lap 1, out of turn 5, absolutely yeets it under the Corvette bridge, wrecks himself out, and I think that was the defining moment that saw Urano's chances of victory slip away. I only bring that up because if Dylan is listening...
He's definitely listening.
He is definitely listening, and I'm going to get a message in Q5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Alander around through turn 5. Clipped by Vecchio. Chaos down the hill at turn 5, but they squeak through to Bennett, Lewis, Coyton, and Trogan for Alander disaster.
Yeah, that's going to be big, because I think, I don't know how big the clout was, but I think it might have hit him right in that bad spot, right in that sweet spot where it's going to make it very, very difficult to drive. Yeah, that's definitely damage on the rear end. Who's going to come through? Alexei Nessoff. It's going to be a freebie for them.
Is it actually crabbing? It looks okay now. I was a bit more worried as it was getting up to speed. Got a big whack on the right side of the car, as in front, Coitert. Lewis, contact with Trogan.
What's happened? He's going slow.
Is that a hardware failure?
It's as if he's got his pit limiter locked on or something. He's got damage. He's definitely pulling over. Oh, what a shame for BS competition.
And it seems like there's moments of craziness at Barber. That's been what we've had happen so far. For Phil Denez and for Nathan Lewis, they drop out of the top 10. They gift a qualifying point to Williams Esports Razor to Alexander Spets.
Is the engine... Okay, so they're out of the race. I wonder... So I've seen this before where, say, for example, you're in second gear in a corner and a car hits you from behind. Because if you were quite close to the limiter, if you get hit from behind...
Overrevs the engine.
It overrevs the engine. Will blow it instantly.
We'll see. We have to look through all of this. Let's start. We're down into turn 5. Alander loops it by himself. Takes too much grass. Pushes the limit of the track. Vecchio then comes into the right rear, minimizes the damage. I think both cars get away with that one.
I mean, it was so close. I've got to say, Vecchio reacts so quickly here. Kind of sees it at this moment here and is he trying to get on the brakes, trying to work out where he's going to go. There is this kind of thing of like when you've got a car spinning out in front of you, you kind of aim for the car because that's where it's less likely to be. It's a bit unfortunate that Vecchio kind of picks to go left because you can kind of see that trajectory that it looks like Alana's going to go is back over to the right. So he's trying to get to the left to get around it. Just mistakes it a little bit. It's rough. It's bad luck, but Vecchio, wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah, again, Vecchio, not much he could do, but I like the heads-up awareness to bring him back down into control before things go bad. Now we have to try and figure out what happened to poor Nathan Lewis. Was there a technical issue?
I've just received message that the quote that I've got is the gas pedal broke, which I hate the idea of saying throttle pedal.
Right.
Which is a big shame.
So
big shame.
Let's listen. Let's just listen if we can. We'll have to look at another replay at some point if we can, because that's not going to give us the engine noise. But if it was just the throttle pedal, it's a hardware failure. You can look, you can't listen here. He gets the ding from behind, but it's unrelated. The throttle has already broken at this point. You can see
he is getting a little bit of throttle, a little bit of revs. You can kind of see just by the lights, but clearly there was
not enough.
There's not enough to actually get back going again. That is a big shame. So what you were saying though, there's technical issues. There's back mark stuff. It's why you can't get complacent. You've got to keep pushing until something goes wrong. To be perfectly honest.
Poor Nathan Lewis. You can't buy luck when you're in that sort of a situation. 39 started this race. We're down to 30 still left and running. Of those, 18 are left on the leading lap. We talked about the possibility of traffic, and you can look at the track map. There aren't many pockets of clean air anywhere around the just under 4 kilometers here in Barber.
Yeah, it's spread out a lot this afternoon. 10 seconds of that spread do go the way of the number 98, and going back a further 15 seconds from then to Cova. It's a big spread for our race leaders that are pulling away into the distance. This is the battle for 5th place, or 4th really, because Team Redline Purple, whilst the move's been made, whilst Luke Bennett's worked his way up in the 4th spot, which by the way is great effort with himself and Diego Pinto. Urano Esports, I'd say, are probably going to close in a little bit here. Whether they'll have the opportunity to make a pass is a different question.
25 minutes to go. Gap for the lead. Hovering at 10 seconds. It finally touches double-digit territory for the Apex Racing Team number 98 car that continues to slog away at the front of the field, putting in the hard effort, going well. I've seen that message as well from Nathan Lewis. The only thing you can do in a situation like this is make light of the situation. Nathan Lewis is trying to do that, but you know frustration will seep in.
Yep, I would. I'd cry. Yeah, that's a rough one. That really is a rough one. Feel really bad for him, but unfortunately, and it is kind of the one thing that I hate hearing when you've had an issue is when someone just goes, "Yeah, well, that's racing." But unfortunately, it's true. It is just one of those things. You got to grin and bear it. To be perfectly honest, we ride on board with Urano. The other Urano car, the second highest Urano car that started in 38th position, by the way, is also closing in on 8th place to make it 30 gained on the day, just behind Cova.
It's a Lander whose tires must be screaming. Although given that he boxed a full almost 7 laps later than Nessoff, wonder if his tires are holding up just a little better, even with the monster spin that he had here. Have to watch his line through turn 7 for the rest of the race. Again, a little bit squirrely as he threw it down the hill into the complex of corners. This is the only fight inside of the top 10 that we're seeing right now. Everyone else split by at least 1.5 seconds. Even behind Alexander Spets in that final points-paying car. Karting Gunes is 3.4 back. It would require more drama. It would require a race control decision to change things up because no one inside of the top 10, at least as it stands right now, Lewis, is staring down the wrath of race control.
Indeed. At the moment, yeah, it's all fairly clean. Got to say, these two, though, are actually being caught down by the Williams Esports Razor car behind, but also the Sim RC cars kind of closing in just a touch. On the last lap, they were separated by literally nothing, but over the last couple of laps, Karting Gunes and Alexander Spets have both been closing in a 10th here, a 10th there. I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if the Sim RC car that we're focused on here is going to be involved in the battle for that final point.
Karting Gunes leaving Core Sim Racing just a couple of months ago, signing up with the Bumblebee-coloured Sim RC, the number 76 entry here today. Of course, Gunes, one of the best that TCR has to offer for iRacing, but when you join up with a team like Sim RC, you can expect to be racing in a GT3 car. Whether it's this one or the Team 75 Bernard by Sim RC entry that we see in a slightly different manufacturer. Here's that battle in front, though. Nessoff hunting down a Lander. So we jump on board with the number 90. 29 positions gained. It was Luca Kita that put in the hard work at the start of the race. A Lander struggles, runs wide, over the crest of the hill, through the roller coaster, through the Thunder Valley section. A Lander is not looking comfortable.
No, feeling a lot of pressure there, missing the apex as well at the final corner. Alexei Nessoff is super close. I don't think we're going to see a big lunge down into T1, but where have we seen big sends all day? Well, it's down into T5, into Charlotte's Web. I could see a move coming very, very shortly from Alexei Nessoff, who's nearly into the rear end of Valtteri Lander coming through 2 and 3.
Will that give Lander the opportunity to defend a little bit harder? A car length or two between them. Into turn 5. There's a look to the inside from Nessoff. Given room again, drivers on the outside of turn 5 have been more than respectful and willing to play nicely. Nessoff slides on by, not fought too hard by Lander. We really have seen very courteous driving through turn 5 this race.
Yeah, between most, obviously not all, but between most, it's been pretty civilised through T5, including on that occasion there. Alexei Nessoff makes it plus 30 for the number 90. What an effort! What a day! I mean, points were a question mark. They were really unlikely, if we're being completely honest, and they might walk away with not 1, not 2, but maybe 4 points. What a super drive, and that's if nothing else happens ahead. There's still 21 minutes left to go and a fair train ahead of them.
Damage limitation. Apex Racing Team, the 98s, lost about a second this lap. Crucially, no damage on the car. The only bits of damage that you see potentially to that front splitter, as it has been smacking into the curbs. Drivers very much using and abusing the curbs here. They're not the highest curbs that we've seen across the season. They're definitely not curbs that you want to get too friendly with.
No, not just for the fact that they will damage your car, but for the fact that they will spin your car quite easily, which we have seen a couple of times, particularly through the S's. I mean, they're not super high curbs around here, but they're high enough that they can pitch the car in the wrong way if you're abusing them wrong. Kevin Ellis Jr. nearly got wrong-footed there by a bit of traffic. Probably where he's lost a second on that lap was by just getting a little bit squirrely going through traffic, which, by the way, if you look at Spets on the rear end of a Lander, they've got a lot of traffic now to deal with, and this could be the moment for Spets to work his way through. And
he's closed as they go through the flip-flop, the run in towards the final sector. More lap traffic to play a part. This is potentially the worst place to catch them. The traffic pulls to the inside. No damage done to a Lander there. A bit more clean air to work with as they work again to the final corner.
Yeah, that was. I was watching Spets before we cut to him. Spets nearly had it on a lander. The issues, obviously, after that spin, overheated tyres, maybe still a fair amount of damage.
What is going on?
There's big problems.
We're at the point of the race where we've seen enough chaos with the traffic, and they're trying to still cause more. Corrington Gunes had a couple of bites at the apple there before eventually lap traffic acquiesced and helped him on his way. They fight behind him for 25th position. SAS Racing Black and the THLF Esports Slot Car Dreams entry, the 017, are 3 laps down, have swapped around that spot for the time being. Got to be careful as you enter into these final stages if you're a car inside of the top 10, Lewis. You can't expect lap traffic to get out of the way. You hold your own destiny in your hands. Red line, red off! Into pit lane! Holtzman has got damage to his car from second place on track. Beneke and Holtzman come into trouble yet again in this 2022 BMW SIM GT Cup.
Now, I think so they've got a fast repair they can use if it is just the damage. Let's see what happens. How long are they going to be stationary for? Is it into the box and straight away? Yeah, it is just the damage repair. So he's going to lose 2, 3, 4 positions rather than a whole heap. I mean, that's what the fast repair's there for.
But the car looked okay.
It did, yeah.
Coming into pit lane, I don't know where that damage would have come from, because I didn't see anything on the timing screen that intimated to me that Holtzman had gone off the track or had come close with any sort of lap traffic. So I'm not sure where this would have happened other than being thrown for a loop.
It was on the rear, so I'm going to take a little look back myself. He received a bit of contact coming through 7 and 8 from someone behind.
So maybe through the...
Oh, it was someone. It was Send It Racing rejoining.
Send It, unfortunately, sending it a little bit too hard. Grab a look at the replay. See what has come a crop for the number 71. Down the hill, nice and tidy. Connery Maddox somewhere with the unsafe rejoin.
Yeah, I mean that one was channeling my Interlagos one from that Formula 4 race. That was pretty bad. Gotta be said for Send It Racing. Again, you've got a delta and stuff. You can read it. He's not looking at the car on circuit. He should be looking at the relative to see when it was clear. Unfortunately, it was not. Or as the cool kids would say, it wasn't.
Spets off into the kiddie litter, off to the grass as well. There goes Wallmeyer trying to slide on past. Final 17 minutes of the race. It is picking up in intensity as Spets will see Wallmeyer down the inside.
Yep, another position for Jonas Wallmeyer. Oh, a bit of a squeeze as well. Coming straight back down the inside, Alexander Spets. Wow. I mean, he was not ready to relinquish that position. Got past, a little bit of a beef between the two of them, and then straight back through. There's a fair amount of damage on the front end of that BMW M4. You can just see it, particularly where the grill is. It's popped up in the middle of the hood. Yeah,
I get the sense that for Spets, channeling some of his prototype racing right now in the Fury, maybe. Let's see what happened to him in towards the Blind S's complex. I feel so guilty sometimes, piling onto these drivers who are placed in an uncomfortable situation. We made that clear. These drivers who are in a split that they're not used to being in are struggling as much as anyone. But you look at some of the behavior and you just wonder what's going on.
There's clearly a lot of damage on the front end of that car as well. So, obviously he was struggling for it. But again, if you are struggling, it is safer to go slower in a scenario like that. Bring it back into pit lane safely rather than risking your own race and also everyone else's. Bit of a shame and a big moment from Spets. I can understand now, especially, why he sent it instantly down the inside, because that man is pretty irritated. Yeah, I can understand the frustration. Battle for second sees Ahola and Bennett now fighting for what will be second and third steps on the podium. Urian and Sonnen, 14th and 5th, will swap around as well, but there are no points being paid out for these two. For Holtzman, no fresh tyres after coming to pit road, but a fresh car. You wonder what that does to the mindset. I wonder as well, with 2 victories already to their name, do Holtzman and Beneke think, top 5? Well, we would have taken second, we would have taken the prize money and the points, but we'll settle to build up to BMW Sim Live. And this is the thing, as much as we're talking about them being two-time race winners in the season, let's look at the other races this season. Really, they've had a bad run as the 71. They started off the season with just the 1 point at Daytona. They had struggles in the few rounds after. Of course, they did finish runner-up to BS competition to the Sebring round after that fantastic, enthralling final lap battle. But they've not had the greatest run in 2022. Very, very inconsistent. For me, if I was them, 5th place, it's points, bag them, move on. It'll be enough to, again, move them into a little bit more of a comfortable position, because as much as they are, I said before, two-time winners, they're not exactly super comfortable from the bottom of the, or from dropping out of BMW Sim Live, and there's a car rejoining right ahead of them.
My, oh my, are these going to be the nerviest moments of the race as drivers just try to survive? Going off the track is the Williams Esports Fnatic entry, as Arana in 23rd is just fighting for fun. Here's the move to the inside. Holtzman fires it into the side of Coitert, barges his way on through. Not for the first time have we seen Redline Red force their way through in turn 5. This time, though, Coitert is having none of it.
Got to get around the outside then, does Patrick Holtzman. He backs out of it. It's not going to try and make it stick around 7. They've got a bit more of a back marker ahead. 13.5 minutes left to go in this race. The back marker jumps straight out of the way, so that was going to be picked up, and you can see why a lot of damage on that, as well as the Williams Esports car of Sammy Matty Trogan's also going to make its way through. This is going to be an intense battle, and Holtzman is going to surely try and find a way through, maybe down into the hairpin again, T5 on the next lap.
I was still trying to pick apart what happened out of turn 2, stumbled over my words as Holtzman tried to get the pass done. 13 minutes to go, it's Kevin Ellis Jr. with a 30-second advantage. That does not tell the whole story of the race. It does tell of the dominance that we've seen from the Apex Racing team, number 98. It was Patrick Holtzman trying to fight with Kevin Ellis Jr. Now he focuses on trying to unsettle Sam Coitert, who gets loose out of turn 2.
Yeah, there's got to be a big send here coming down into Charlotte's Web, up and over the crest at 4. This is Patrick Holtzman's opportunity once again. You know he's going to send it in. Coitert's not going to defend the inside, though. There's the big send straight down the inside. Holtzman there, but the up and under. Sam Coitert might be able to make this one stick. He's got to get the outside of 7, though.
Beautifully done. Overcommitment from Holtzman, who might try and carry the speed to the inside of 7. They're still side by side. This time Holtzman will get it done. It took a while. He runs wide, still stays on the track. Patrick Holtzman back up to 4th.
Got to say, smart stuff there from Sam Coitert, who was like, right, okay, you are pretty hungry, sir. I ain't getting involved. Off you go. 3.2 seconds now up towards Bennett and Antiohola. I mean, can there be an extra attempt down pit lane, a fast repair served from this Redline Red car, and still second position with 11 minutes and 50 seconds to go? I wouldn't rule it out.
What a dramatic day this has been. Let's go and pick up the moments where I think we all worried it was going to end in tears. For Sam Coitert, as that car rejoined into his path, what quick reactions to hold on to a top 5 spot today.
And it would have been super easy for Patrick Holtzman to just ride all over the back of Sam Coitert there and spin Sam Coitert out. Again, amazing he avoided it. Both of them super quick reaction times. They read what was going on just in time to do so. And now Coitert's getting a free pass up to this battle for second position, Ahola versus Bennett.
These two split by 0.4 of a second. A 3-second buffer back to Holtzman with 11 minutes to play. What a drive it would be if Holtzman could get back up to second with this little time remaining.
I think it's possible. I think it genuinely, I think it is absolutely possible. It requires a little bit of battling, a little bit of back markerage to get in. Guess who they're coming up against now? It's Send It Racing, your absolute favourites of the day, who have just gone a little bit wide. And there we go. That's exactly what we were talking about. There is the opportunity. Antiohola getting slowed down, sent off the Send It Racing car, and Luke Bennett is trying to book his ticket up into second position.
It seems more like a game of Crazy Taxi right now than anything else. For Bennett, the opportunity was there, did not force the issue. I think Antiohola will be delighted to see that. He's been turfed off a couple of times in the dying stages just this past summer. All Antiohola wants is to hold on to second, to walk away with the prize money that stands in front of him, $600 to each of those that finish in second.
honestly, it hadn't even crossed my mind. Yeah, $600 for second, $300 for third. Luke Bennett, though, wants to move up a position, wants to gain an extra 300 straight down the inside into Charlotte's Web.
This time, Ahola thought about the cutback, not able to cross up and get it onto the power. It is Bennett that sails his way forward up to second. After Max Verstappen tried to play matchmaker for Toothless Luke, he has been able to carve his way up. That car that started down in 10th at the hands of Diogo Pinto went long. Luke Bennett has run a remarkable second stint of this race, been allowed to attack, and now runs in second.
Yeah, and again, yeah, if he wants to be a little bit of an assister here, he might try and slow down Antti Ahola just a touch in the final 9 minutes of this race. I don't think he needs to for too much longer, though, because Holtzman, after doing a 20.5, which, by the way, around this point of the race is a ridiculously fast time, closed in massively. More back markers for them to navigate as they head round that one being full beans racing with an awful lot of damage. But you can see Holtzman is there, ready to attack for second.
9 to go. 9 minutes left on the clock in this round 8 of the BMW SIM GT Cup. It was a race that we identified and circled at the start of the year. We didn't know what Barber would do. In some ways, it feels like one of our last trips to this side of the pond, not to the race at Watkins Glen, to the race we had last year at the Circuit of the Americas in this BMW M4 GT3.
Yeah, it was a single split race that day. Of course, it was one of the early races in the Season 2 BMW SIM GT Cup last year. It was a crazy race, although I will say this race has been absolutely thrilling. I have enjoyed this from start to finish. It's been crazy, but I've enjoyed it. I'm not sure what's happening here.
I'm not sure where Christopher Dambeats thought he was going, but left side smacks into the wall. I guess he continues. Been a difficult day for Dambeats overall. Was already out of the points positions. Will be classified, if he can hold on where he is, to 17th spot. Winding up yet again. Ahola has not put the pressure onto Bennett. Now, behind him, Holtzman, Kuitert have closed. It's a 4-way fight for second. Holtzman almost off to the grass.
Yeah, and he did that as well in the build-up to the penultimate corner as well after coming through the S's. Holtzman was nearly off into the weeds big time and nearly dropped it for the 71. At the moment, though, he is right in the mix. This is the battle for the podium for second and third position. Remember that in this scenario, Luke Bennett in that 69 Team Redline purple car, they get some prize money, $600 each. The third place car, the Cova, the 707, they get $300 each. At the moment, for Patrick Holtzman, it is nothing. A solid 0. You walk away just with points in the championship and a solid goose egg in your bank account.
Couple of laps left to change that. For Holtzman and Beneke, with the 2 victories this season, will they feel the need to go on the offense? Will they be content to secure the points as they run right now? Behind them, not really too many battles to focus on inside of the top 8. Yes, we've got Vecchio and Nessoff closing up as Nessoff now looks for position 31. Really, though, it's 9th and 10th where the most battling will prove to be. Alander is slowed in front of Gunez. Lorenzo is closed as well with a 5-second time penalty. Gunez almost runs into the back of Alander. He checks up his momentum, drops behind Lorenzo in the Urano Esports number 90 machine. Nessoff gets in front of Vecchio. Plenty happening out on track.
Yeah, we're again reapproaching Crazy Town. It's been breathless action all day, and we are seeing that one continue. Sim RC now dropping back the single position outside of the final points-paying position, at least on the race. And so now need to find a way straight back through the Urano Esports Huawei car. And where is the opportunity going to come? It's got to be down into Charlotte's Web once again. I wonder if Patrick Holtzman might find a way past Antti Ahola in the near future. You've got to say, Patrick Holtzman, we've spoken about this before, about drivers that are on the path to 10K. At the moment, there are 5 drivers on the platform that have 10K I rating. One of them isn't Josh Rogers anymore, which I didn't realise, by the way.
Yes.
One of them very, very soon could be Patrick Holtzman. He is on the charge, and he's not far away.
Didn't realise that. Where is Alexander Spetz on my timing screen? Seems to have completely run away from me. He's not running on his main account today. That's why he's not in the 10K club. I was like, we should have a couple more drivers up in that bracket. 5 minutes to go, though. We still watch second on back. Koiter has lost ground. Holtzman has already got the impetus to look to the inside through the final corner. Holtzman tries to do one on a Hola, but able to cover off the move, and now grows the gap to Bennett in front. Holtzman only focusing on the battle for third.
Yeah, that was super, super close. You can see a lot more brake being used by that Kova car, and you can see the opportunity is arising for Team Red Line Red. It's going to be a big send, but you said this before, Antiohola doesn't want to lose money again in the BMW Sim GT Cup. Here comes the opportunity.
Maybe doing some fuel saving as well. Leaves the door open. Holtzman, with no second invitation required, gets back into the podium spot. Yes, Ahola will try and get the move done on the exit of the corner, but it is a fight back for Patrick Holtzman, up to third.
Brilliant, brilliant effort from Patrick Holtzman after the issue. Like I say, a back marker rejoining at this very corner, causing them some damage. They saved the fast repair on the pit stop. They took it at this point of the race. That is a well-experienced, well-versed team moving back inside the podium positions, the higher of the points-paying positions. They've not just settled for 5th place. They want more in this championship. They haven't had the greatest start of the season, but when they've got into the running properly, they are looking very, very difficult. They're going to be carrying that momentum all the way into BMW Sim Live, if I'm honest.
And it is the time to start finding that rhythm, to build up that speed. Of course, the endurance season will start to pick up as well here in iRacing. Will drivers be focused on this BMW M4 GT3? Will they carry that forward to the end of October to BMW Sim Live? While we watch the battle for the podium spots, your leader is already down and out of turn number 7. Winding into the final sector, Kevin Ellis Jr. is 30 seconds clear of those behind him, has just got to survive for 2 more laps.
I've got to say as well that it's madness, by the way, that this is obviously the last time we're racing in August, the last time we're racing in the summer, the next time we go racing in this championship, like I say, it's the 2nd of October. Such a large wait between rounds, between now and the next time we go racing at Silverstone. If you've got any sort of momentum, you want to take the full advantage of it now before there's too large of a break between rounds.
We talk about this BMW Sim GT Cup calendar. Don't forget, BMW Sim Time Attack. 2 rounds left to go in that one on Assetto Corsa Competizione. September 5th through September 19th. We head to South Africa, we head to Kyalami, but to round out the qualifiers for BMW Sim Time Attack, we head to the host of the finale of BMW Sim GT Cup as well. We head to the land of the rising sun and Suzuka, October 3rd through the 17th. Qualify your way for BMW Sim Live. Bennett Holtzman, 2 laps to go for them as they come across the line. They've dropped to Hola and Koiter, who are now scrapping for 4th position. Don't expect there to be a swap around between Bennett and Holtzman, surely, although if Holtzman's on the blower and saying, look, I didn't lose 2nd place, it was robbed from me, wouldn't be shocked if we had some team orders swap them around.
I'm not sure we'll get team orders.
Ooh.
I am pretty sure we'll get a send. I think Holtzman's going to try and make a move. Luke Bennett, he's a young star. He's trying to prove himself. He's trying to prove himself against the very, very best, and the way to do that is by holding him off. I think Holtzman, though, will not wait for too long.
And while they fight for 2nd, there's no fight for the lead. White flag should be in hand, although it will be close. With 1 minute and 20 seconds to go, Ellis Jr. came across the line with an average lap time of about 1 minute and 20. I think we've got 2 laps to go. I did not see the white flag for Barney the flagman.
He can slow down, though, and get it, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, I mean, it depends if he wants to. He's got a 30-second lead. I've said time and time again, if you know you've got the fuel, why slow down? Just keep going, just enjoy it. Enjoy it. Although that said, on a risky day like this, I'm like, no, I want to see the checker flag as fast as possible. Thanks.
We'll see what exactly happens, but now it's to focus on the battle for 2nd, the battle for 4th as well. Koiter close to a Hola. Holtzman with a couple more opportunities to throw a lunge to the inside of his teammate. What is rule 1 of racing? Do not turf off your teammate. Holtzman has got to remember that. He'll look to the inside of turn 5. Red line red, back to 2nd spot. Luke Bennett doesn't fight too hard. Holtzman regains 2nd.
Yeah, that wasn't team orders to me. That was just wise driving from Luke Bennett. No need to fight that one off. All wise to pick up the prize money, at least from 3rd.
The road to BMW Sim Live is winding down. Alejandro Sanchez put it on pole to start off BMW Sim GT Cup competition. He'll do it again at Barber, and they will endure one more lap before Kevin Ellis Jr. can celebrate as a winner. It was seconds away from the checkered flying.
Yeah, which a lot of teams, they might not have known how close it was. If there's anyone tight on fuel, they'll be panicking now, because someone, your race engineer, your teammate will tell you, hang on, he's doing another lap. Save.
Oh!
There will be someone
Here they come!
See what I mean?
Holtzman, Bennett, the red line duo on the podium, roll to pit lane. One extra lap has thrown red line straight in the bin.
Wow. I literally, as we were saying it, there were going to be a couple of teams that were close, but too close. Such a big shame for Bennett and for Ahola. They'll have to stop. They'll have to get a little bit of fuel before they can leave pit lane. Just one lap, that's all it was.
To correct myself, I thought it was Holtzman and Luke Bennett who came down pit road. Holtzman was able to go an extra lap. It's Ahola that pays the price. Was that the call for the Apex Racing team to see who they would outlast, who would fall into strife? What a day, what a tumultuous day it has been in the Barber Motorsports Park. A dominant performance though for Alejandro Sanchez and for Kevin Ellis Jr. A flag-to-flag victory amongst the chaos of traffic. The Apex Racing team win in the BMW Sim GT Cup.
What a different day it was for Apex. A super effort and a very, very well-deserved victory. They were completely dominant, and proving that the Barber Motorsports Park belongs to Apex, taking a victory by over half a minute. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, we still wait for Patrick Holtzman and for Sam Coyter to come across the line. That is the extent of the margin of victory. Of course, the Apex Racing team partnered up with Team Rahal Lederman Lanigan in 2020 as Brandon Trainer went on to become the first multi-time winner of the iRacing Indianapolis 500. Maybe it's fitting that they come to an American open wheel staple. They came to the Barber Motorsports Park. They endured, they outlasted. Alejandro Sanchez converted pole position into a healthy lead of the race. Kevin Ellis Jr. able to follow up the onslaught after that. What a day this was. What a dramatic day it was. There will be discussions had in the aftermath of this one. Plenty of drivers will be heated and frustrated. This was one that will define the road to Sim Live.
Also, I don't know what's been happening with some of the switches, but can you tell me who's in fifth?
Believe it's Alexei Nesov.
How? 33 positions gained. What a day. Urano Esports, who have had a few top fives this season, have 2 cars inside the top 5 and a recovery drive that I cannot even imagine how that would feel. I didn't think they were going to score points. They get a top 5 again and 10 onto the board. Incredible drive.
Lovely, lovely stuff. Plaudits, of course, will go the way of Nesov and Kita, but ultimately the spoils of victory go to just 2, Kevin Ellis Jr. and to Alejandro Sanchez, gaining the points on the road to BMW Sim Live, walking away with a cool $1,200 each after 2 hours of racing action. 33 seconds does not tell the story, but by no means did Patrick Holtzman and Maximilian Benecke take the fight to Ellis Jr. and to Sanchez. For Holtzman, it was a fight to get back to second in the dying stages after an incident with lap traffic. What a move it was, what a fight back, what determination shown by the German. Sam Coyter takes advantage of fuel chaos to come across the line in the final step of the podium, grabbing points on the board, but as well grabbing a couple of $100 for him and his teammate in the number 91, Sami Matti Trogan, along with Carl Jansen across the line in 4th, with Alexei Nesov, the biggest mover of the day, plus 33 to work his way into the top 5, along with his teammate Luca Kita. For Gianni Vecchio, a late call for some of his teammates saw him get up into 6th in the dying stages in front of Valtteri Alander, who endured a difficult hour of racing action. Daniel Lorenko will have a 5-second time penalty that will see him drop outside of the points positions. Luke Bennett and Ahola will be promoted to 8th and 9th, but after running 2nd and 3rd until the final lap of the race, what a disappointment that will be. Scoring the final point then in the race will be SimRC's Corentin Gunez in the 76 along with Kieran Harrison, while Julian Sunnan will miss out for the RAG number 88. Alexander Spetz, Urainen, Fluke, Wolmar, Dambeach, Richter, Santos and Cope make up the rest of the top 20 with only 16 cars left on the leading lap. We'll scroll through the rest of the names, but Lewis, let's finally catch our breath. Let's reflect on the 2 hours of action that we just saw.
I'm going to say it. I think we've had some great races this season. Over the 8 races that we've had, this has been my favourite. I can understand if speaking to some drivers about it, they will have hated it. Some drivers, they will have been like, that was some of the worst 2 hours of driving that I've ever done. From a spectator, from a commentator, from someone who's just here to enjoy it, I enjoyed it a lot. I think that was a great race.
And to put it in context as well, right, Lewis? These sort of races are ones available to the public. Anyone can come and race these ones. So these frustrating races are races that the average iRacer is a lot more used to dealing with the chaos that goes on amongst them.
I mean, look, you want to come and take part in something like this. You've only joined iRacing for a little bit. You've been on iRacing for ages. It doesn't really matter. You can come and take part. That's the joy of an event like this, that it is open to everyone. There's no long sign-up sheet. There's no entry fee to pay. Get a mate, come along, enjoy the race, take part. It's so much fun. I, again, really enjoy it. Normally we have a couple of splits. So you kind of get involved in a split that's kind of more of your own speed, and that's where the sim racing elite that we normally see in these, they kind of race against themselves because they're normally around themselves. But if you want to take part, go for it.
Race results should be clarified are very much unofficial right now. Our review team will have to pore over the entirety of the almost 90 laps of racing that we had to see if anything happened. Teams will be given the opportunity to appeal any decisions as well. So any post-race changes will be communicated to the teams on the necessary channels. Stay involved on RaceSpot.tv/BMW 2022 Sim GT Cup. Stay up to date on the latest news within the paddock. We are waiting because we're hoping, as always, to chat with some of our post-race podium sitters, because I think we're very curious, Lewis, what that was like behind the wheel, because we are tired just having talked about the race.
It's exhausting. When you're a driver in a scenario like this, like that it's an exhausting race. I don't know even if our race winners would have enjoyed it too much. They will enjoy the idea of winning, but they'll be more glad that the race is over because it's a stressful time. Races like this are a level of stress behind the wheel of a car that you kind of can't really put into words. I think especially in the middle of a heat wave here in Europe, if I was in that position, I am going to dunk myself into the ocean somewhere.
We are getting word that the winning duo will be with us in a couple of moments. We'll give them the time to come and chat with us. Let's talk about what's up next. 2 rounds left. We head to your neck of the woods, Lewis. We head to the home of British motorsports and back to the site of BMW Sim Live in 2020. It was remarkable. 3 wide, Josh Rogers taking advantage of Graham Cabell and Maximilian Benecke, almost coming to blows through the veil to sweep to the inside, take it 3 wide and punch his way into the history books. But this time it's 2 hours of racing, 2 drivers, the mandatory pit stop. What do we expect when we head to Silverstone?
Oh, it's a great track. Very, very raceable. I've been there almost too much now, but always love going to Silverstone. It's a classic of world motorsport, of course, built back in 1948. It's an old RAF airfield that was changed into a racetrack. It used to just be the perimeter road. It's very, very different now, but it kind of keeps that core character that makes Silverstone an instant classic. It's going to be a great race. It's very, very raceable, I can tell you that. I think we're going to be talking about a little bit of slipstream, a little bit of fuel mileage, but I still think people are going to get elbows out.
Probably not as much chaos as we saw today. Don't know if that will be a good thing or a bad thing, but we'll start by talking to our pole position winner. We'll talk to Alejandro Sanchez. Alejandro, your second pole position of the season. This time you were able to convert to a nice healthy lead at the front. What was that lap like in qualifying? How perfect was it?
Pretty happy with the lap. Didn't make any mistakes. Probably like at most half a tenth on it, which is pretty good for such a track where every little thing is penalized. It's really very well flowing track, so every corner is after the other, so messing up one means messing up the next one. But yeah, I'm really happy. One of my most solid qualifying performances this year. Better than Daytona in my opinion, and definitely better than the rest where I didn't set a time and off-track quali. So really happy with that.
What was it like for you in the first hour of the race? You built up the buffer, able to have some clean air behind you, and then navigate your way through the traffic with relatively little pressure.
Yeah, I tried to look after the tires because in our test races they tended to fall away quite a bit, but I knew I had like a little bit of an edge on the rest of the guys around in terms of pace, at least at the beginning. Beneke behind was probably matching me, if not faster than me, for most of that stint, but I got a little bit more lucky with traffic, I guess. Just tried to not die and keep the car on track and incident free. That was the key. It was tough, but we made it through.
I'll come over to Kevin Ellis Jr., who picked up the car with 4 fresh tires for the last 40-50 minutes of the race, because these guys were one of the few able to extend beyond the top of the hour. Kevin, when you got into the car, what was the situation as you saw it? What was the strategy to get to the checkered flag?
Yeah, I mean, it was just a case of trying to avoid the lap cars, really. You know, we saw from the first stint, and we saw on the sign-up sheet that there was quite a few inexperienced guys. You know, we've seen obviously examples of this in the past, and I think you know, I think after today we probably need to review the format. But you know, we're in talks with BMW. They seem pretty open to changing things, so hopefully we don't have a situation like this again in the future. But yeah, I mean, Alejandro done a great job in the first stint. He absolutely kicked my backside during testing this week, and really sort of kicked me into shape a little bit. I just about got on top of it. Like last night, I found like 2 or 3 tenths a lap and really managed to hold on to the tires. And that was just the case today, you know, getting the car with a gap and just trying to avoid the lap traffic, which I didn't do a great job of. I had a couple small issues there, but you know, we held on to the tires. The car was unreal, and yeah, we managed to bring it home.
I know you're coming off a little bit of a rest period after a busy, of course, start to the year. Great to actually get some time off. Coming to Barber, though, let's put aside what actually happened. Let's talk about just the track itself. It's a really fun one to drive by yourself. It's a really difficult challenge. We did see some good passing. Would you like to see us come back here next year if there's a little less chaos?
If we can finish first again, then yeah. But you know, it's a fun little track. You know, it's got good flow. I did actually have fun during testing. As much as you know, it was hard to sort of put a smile on it when you're getting your backside kicked by your teammate. But you know, it's one of those things. It's got a nice flow to it, as Alex said as well. Like it's really easy to lose time around here. The one corner always flows into the next, which, you know, when you're getting it right, makes it really satisfying. But it's also so frustrating when you're missing just a little bit of lap time. And you know, you can sometimes lose a tenth and a half a lap, and you don't really feel that you've done much wrong. So, you know, hopefully if we do come back here, it's a little bit cooler as well. Those track temps were grim today. Those tires were really giving us a hard time. But you know, thankfully, once the track really rubbered in there, it wasn't too bad.
The Apex Racing team now winners in the 2022 BMW SIM GT Cup as Kevin Ellis Jr. and Alejandro Sanchez take one more step on the road to BMW Sim Live. We thank them for taking the time to talk to us. Always great to hear about the friendly rivalries that emerged between the teams as well. Kevin Ellis Jr. talking about how testing was difficult for him. After talking to the drivers, Lewis, what do you take from the mindset of the Apex Racing team?
Pretty chill. To be honest, they seem pretty calm. They seem pretty strong, and especially after a day like this, they seem pretty fast. Now, if they can nail that kind of form again and again and again, we know that they have that form, right? It's not as if this has been a random thing. You heard there from Alejandro Sanchez about qualifying laps and how he's had races where he hasn't been able to get a qualifying lap onto the board. We've seen it before where he's had to work his way up. Avoid those mistakes, move their way forward. It's a super lineup between Alejandro Sanchez and Kevin Ellis Jr. One that, if I'm the likes of Team Red Line, perhaps, I'm a little concerned about, if I'm honest. 2 races left to go. On October 16th, we'll know the 12 that will fight at the end of October to be crowned your new 2022 BMW Sim Live champion. Remember, after 2 years of Joshua Rogers domination, of 3 years of Coanda domination, BMW Sim Live will see another champion, will see another team rise to the fold. As always, a delight to have your company on RaceSpotTV. What a day it was. Yes, it was chaotic. Yes, it was frenetic. But Barber Motorsports Park electrified. The BMW Sim GT Cup has delivered a race that will be talked about for a while.
On behalf of the team at BMW Esports, on behalf of the team at RaceSpotTV, delighted to have your company on this Sunday as we get closer and closer to the end of the road for BMW Sim Racing and for 2022. For Lewis McLeod, for myself, Arjuna Kankipati, we bid you farewell from Barber as we head to the home of British motorsport in 1 month's time. September 18th will be the penultimate race of the 2022 BMW Sim GT Cup. Will the Apex Racing team take one more step closer to BMW Sim Live? Until then, we bid you farewell. It's the Apex Racing team on top at the Alabama roller coaster.